Hello everyone, welcome live to 3Y TV, tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series here at the famed Daytona International Speedway for the start of the season and the Stay Tuned Sports 300 here at the World Center of Racing. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth, as always, here in the National Sim Racing Association Truck Series is Drew Eisenman. And Drew, great to be back in beautiful, sunny Florida here tonight. Probably the biggest race on the schedule as well. All these drivers want to walk away with win number one of the season tonight.
Yeah, it's that time of the year again on my favorite night, Friday night. The week's over, the new season's beginning, and we got a whole new season, a lot of the same faces and new situations, new cars, several new drivers. And we're kicking it off at Daytona. It just feels like the start of the new season. I can't wait to get this thing underway.
Absolutely. Of course, 300 miles in the books here tonight, 120 laps. A couple new things this season. Of course, one of the new things is the new Pole Award sponsor. Craig Setup Shop jumping on board this season as the sponsor, and that Pole Award went to Matt Cherry last week. Qualifying happened. We won't see any qualifying here tonight. It's already happened. We'll just jump straight to the race here up at the top of the hour. But big shout out to Craig Setup Shop for jumping on board for the Pole Award. You're seeing a couple of drivers here getting some laps in. But that, like I mentioned, Matt Cherry will be picking up that Craig Setup Shop Pole Award. But one thing also is the Buttkicker Challenge. And Drew, we'll find out whether or not Matt Cherry wants to start at the back of the race here tonight.
Yeah, I think if there's a track that seems to be the most workable, realistic outcome, I think Daytona is a really good place to try it. Starting track position doesn't necessarily mean anything here at Daytona. It's nice to start up front where you can try to set yourself up to stay out of trouble that might occur in the mid-packs, but it's no guarantee. And the guys at the rear of the field or the guys that drop back, there's no guarantee that they don't get themselves in a bad situation there as well. So, yeah, we'll see. Matt Cherry, so quick early last season, had a ton of pace, led a bunch of laps, was arguably the quickest driver in several races, and just wasn't able to put it all together. But a great start to his season. We'll see if he can carry this momentum through Daytona and the rest of the season.
Yeah, and as you can see there on the left-hand side of your screen, second fastest here in the practice session before the storm begins. Colin O'Leary down there in the number 62 machine, the Sim Shots Chevrolet. We're going to see a lot of new paint schemes out here tonight, Drew. We've been getting used to them in the few races that we've already had. Of course, we started up the season with the Craig's Clash at iRacing Super Speedway. Last week, we had the Stay Tuned Sports Duels right here on 3Y TV. And, of course, here tonight, the Stay Tuned Sports 300. But some really good-looking hot rods out there. But bear with us, folks, if we get some trucks wrong. Bear with us because, this is only the third time we've seen them on track, but a lot of them look absolutely awesome, as always, especially a lot of these trucks that are painted by one of the series sponsors, MaxGrafix.co, as the number 13 machine there. Jordan Shepler, is he going to save it? Man, I thought he was going to save it there, do like a 720 and just kind of get on pit road, really cool and slick and stuff, but I wasn't quite able to get that blowed up. But already practicing getting to pit road, Drew. We saw a lot of that last season here in this series because they run the smaller fuel tanks.
Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of green flag pit stops. And, hopefully these guys get those longer runs in. Relatively short runs, though, for these guys as well, with that 70% fuel limit, as you mentioned there, Peter. Really tough pit road to get on and off of as well. iRacing does model that really small brake package that you run here at the super speedways, and the stopping power that you would have at almost every other type of track, you're not going to have here. And so if you run these trucks a lot and you're kind of used to that bite and that braking power that you get at a New Hampshire or any Richmond, Martinsville, any of those type of tracks, that is not going to work here at Daytona. Number one, you're obviously just going much faster. Number two, the wheels just tend to lock up really easily because you just run in small calipers, small discs, and they just don't really work very well, but they reduce drag. So it'll be interesting to see who can get on and off pit road cleanly. That makes such a big difference here at these super speedway tracks because like we saw in the preseason, it just takes a little slip to lose that main pack.
Yeah, absolutely. But folks, checkered flag has come out here in practice. We're getting set to grid them up for the start of the 2021A National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series right here on 3Y TV. All the cars out there currently gridding on pit road. That's why we got that pit lane time there at the bottom hand corner of the screen. It doesn't matter. They're all on pit road here, folks. And it will be Matt Cherry who will roll off currently in the starting position. Number one, we'll see Drew. Like we mentioned, he could decide to try and go for that butt kicker challenge. He will get an end of longest line penalty if he chooses to do so here when the trucks start rolling. But really awesome job picking up the Craig Setup Shop pole position award last week at Daytona with a really, really stellar lap time.
Yeah, and the art of doing a really quick at a restrictor plate track has tightened up recently with the updates that iRacing's implemented. There used to be a little bit of a trick getting on and off pit road that you could use, but we'll go ahead and run through this starting grid. Matt Cherry, your pole sitter, that would be Travis White, your outside pole sitter. Obviously, those two were set in that qualifying session that was held. The rest of these positions set in the duels. Jason Gracias rolling off third with Bill Edwards to his outside. Doug Neal in that bright yellow 77 truck. He'll be starting in fifth position. Jamar Dumas, he'll be starting in fifth position, rather. Jamar Dumas will be starting in sixth. James Lorello in that green machine, that number 9, will be starting in seventh. Barry Knapp in that 42 in eighth. Chris Darling, new number, new look for that now 11 Ford F-150. He'll be starting in ninth. And our back-to-back reigning champion, Mitchell Adams, rounding out our top 10. Yeah,
and then back behind them, you got the 11th and 12th place machine, David Harvey, Jason Freeman. Then back behind them, Jordan Scheffler, Nathan Maurer on row number 7. Justin White, Stan Hausman, 15th and 16th. Nick Bradley and Paul Bilson back there, a few rows back on row number 9. Garrett Gleason, Philip Scott rounding at your top 20 there, Drew.
Then White and green machine in that number 20 will be starting in 21st in that number 24. Evan Gilbert in the 19 will be starting in 22nd. The 041 of Tristan Marr will be starting in 23rd. Ben Izinga 24th. Matt Vanderkoy 25th. The 55, Stephen Doziak Jr. 26th. Brian Bradley 27th. Ben Adams, Colin Ullery, and TJ Buck will round out your top 30 with Robert Dudley, JT Poole, Drew Himmelman, Monty Glover, Peter Serto, Doug Milner, Kyle Lewis, rounding out our field. Double is our eye in the sky, our admin that will be watching this thing. But here we go, Peter, coming off turn 4, about to get this thing underway.
Pace car heads down pit road. Here we go. The season here at Daytona about to get underway. Green flag in the air. We're racing at Daytona. 300 miles. A couple of trucks there in the back of the pack. Not quite getting up to speed just yet. Maybe a little bit of an accordion effect. But up at the front of the field, it is the number 38 machine who leads the field. Matt Cherry did not elect, folks, to pick up the butt kicker challenge here tonight at Daytona. So that money, the $10 for winning here tonight, will roll on to next week. Next week, the driver will go for $20 in that butt kicker challenge. Of course, butt kicker jumping on board as a series sponsor this year. Link in the description. Make sure you check them out, especially if you have a sim rig. But things off to a very calm start up at the front of the field. Matt Cherry, Jason Gracias, and Doug Neal lead the field.
Not terribly surprising that these guys are being fairly cordial at the beginning of this race. We really saw some aggressive driving and some chaos ensue in the preseason in both duels and in the clash at iRacing Super Speedway. Quite a few wrecks, quite a few torn up trucks. So, I'm not terribly surprised to see guys giving each other a little bit more room, getting this thing a little bit more spread out, because we know with these trucks, especially at this newer, smoother version of Daytona, then, a little bit out of shape there maybe for that number 1 of Jason Gracias and the 38 of Matt Cherry. Not quite sure if there was contact there, maybe a touch to the yellow line that could really upset these trucks. But Gracias now kind of stuck up on the outside. He'll duck back in behind that number 50 truck of Bill Edwards. But a little bit of a loss of track position for that one. But that outside lane there, Peter, what we saw in the clash at a different version of Daytona is in here tonight.
Yeah, of course, if you weren't here last week for the duels, that race was actually ran on the bumpy version of Daytona, the old Daytona circa 2007 as Matt Cherry and Bill Edwards there getting close. I'm sure we got Bill Edwards fans in the chat here tonight for the Stay Tuned Sports 300. And really, we're starting to see a little bit of a breakaway up at the front of the field back to Nathan Maurer in the number 971. Maurer currently running just on the outside of the top 10 down there in the 12th position. But we're starting to see things break up. But look at James Lorello. He was the runner-up last year in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. He's now up at the front of the field trying to lead his first lap of the season.
Yeah, James Lorello, so quick last year. One of the preseason favorites coming in to the 2021 B, I guess, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. So I think we're going to see this a lot, Peter, is seeing that number 9 truck running up front, leading laps, but maybe not expected as much here at Daytona. But that driver to his outside, that number 23 Simbox truck of Travis White, doing a really good job hanging out there. And we're really seeing that Highline start to organize and really get close together where you're able to just transfer that energy, those runs to the truck in front of you. And like we're seeing right now, you're at bottom lane, going to lose just a little bit of time to the corners. They're running about to just close out of it. I don't know, man. It's weird.
Well, we'll see if it comes back. I mean, it says it's back on my end now. We'll see if it's back for everyone else. Hopefully it is. It says it's okay. I'm not sure what was going on there. It was showing perfect connection on my end, and then all of a sudden it would go to 0. Typically that's not a great way. It looks like we're getting people it's back up. Hopefully that's okay. It was really weird, folks. We had it cut in and out 3 times. On my end, I would send data to the server and then it would just go straight to 0. So hopefully it's back up. We did have some issues prior to the race and they cleaned up. And it seems like maybe YouTube is having a rough night. Meanwhile, out there on the racetrack, we have had the field really broken up here, Drew. I'm trying to see if we can figure out what went on. I think there was something going on the backstretch that we might have missed a little while ago. Just trying to look to see, but up at the front of the field, Ben Mashburn and Bill Edwards are side by side for the race lead here, Drew.
Yeah, we saw those guys post kind of shake up for that number 1 trucks getting dead sideways. Jason Gracias spread out a little bit, but they've really come back together here in the last few laps. And yeah, we're seeing Ben Mashburn and that number 11 truck of Chris Darling get up there and race hard on that outside lane, as now Travis White in that 23 truck is he's seen about enough of the racing again, and he is heading to the back of this front pack, which is maybe not a bad move. They're in that number 23 silver and blue Simbox sponsored truck. And back out front, James Lorello pushing his teammate, that number 50 of Bill Edwards. They've been really, really strong since Bill made that fairly aggressive cut to the bottom to get that race lead. And it's really nice, Peter, when you position yourself with your teammate up towards the front, because you can, I mean, you can't dictate what that high lane's going to do, but you can certainly control your own lane when you have multiple teammates working together like this.
Yeah, that is for sure. We did get a question in the chat, a question from Tana Hibbleman about Ben Adams. Sounds like Ben Adams has some damage in the number 5 truck. Doesn't look like a whole lot. There is that number 5 SimShots machine. I think the damage he might have picked up might have been from that contact that we did see with the number 1 machine of Jason Gracias. I think that was just before things cut out. But it looks like that number 5 truck, all fenders are square on it right now. What about Andrew Himmelman? However, Andrew out there right now in the number 8 machine, the SimShots Chevy. And as you can see, Drew, this field kind of got broke up when that accident appeared to break out. I thought it was going to be the big one. I thought we were going to see a bunch of tore up trucks. Somehow we stayed green. But look at one of the trucks that's pretty heavily damaged. The number 49 machine, your reigning series champion, 2-time reigning series champion, that is. The MaxGrafix.co number 49 machine, he got some pretty hefty damage in that contact, and he's sliding back here in the field. That's a big, tough break, real tough break, I should say, for your champ.
Yeah, not what you want really for Mitchell Adams, but it's certainly not a race ender if we get when we get the stage break, right? Because we do have that coming here in the not too distant future, as long as he doesn't go a lap down and is really out of it. And even a lap down would be unfortunate because he needs all the time he can to get that thing fixed. But his race certainly isn't over, especially with the stages, which is a huge thing this season. I think it's the biggest change in the Simbox. Or my apologies, folks. We'll get used to it. The now Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series is that stage break here, Peter, at the 1/3 mark. Here translates to lap 40. I did the math this time, folks. I promise. So Mitchell Adams in that 19 and the 1, the guys with some significant damage, they know they're going to have a chance to fix it. It's just how much do they fall before they get to that point?
Yeah, that is a big question. How far back in the field will they fall before we get this stage break? In fact, only one stage break. It will be coming at the 1/3 race distance in every race this season. So last season we didn't have that stage caution. This year we will. There will be stage points awarded as well for the top 10 finishers, from 10 points up at the top of the scoring pylon all the way back to 1 point back in 10th. So like you said, that is one of the significant changes that we see here in the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series this season, and their thoughts are, let's get the field back together. We saw a couple of caution-free races. Whoa, big wiggle there out the back of the Zaps number 26 machine of JT Poole on the high line. Has the number 11 machine of Chris Darling right behind him. New number, new look. New manufacturer for Chris Darling this season. But just a big wiggle out of the 26 machine. They get things all woed up. And on the front stretch here, those MaxGrafix racing machines on that high line trying to get up to the front.
Yeah, and another thing that they're doing this year, Peter, of note is they, I mean, and we've been able to, luckily for our benefit, see this information, is they're doing a teams championship as well. And it kind of gives us a little clue into really whose teammates together. And one thing of note, that 24, the 11, the 26 on that outside lane, they're all teammates as well. So interesting to see the MaxGrafix racing team up there, 3 out of their 4 cars are up there working together, and now we're basically just seeing 2 teams race here up the front, almost like the days of Hendrick versus Gibbs, right, at these super speedways not too long ago. Is what's happening now. And a lot more Fords running this year, a lot fewer Toyotas, which is interesting, is now Ben Mashburn. And that Bet Angles number 24, that one of my favorite schemes out there, he cuts to the bottom, leaves his teammates out there to draw out there up on the high line. And that's an interesting move, because here they come. They have a big run. And Peter, just a whole bunch of teams, a whole bunch of new manufacturers, a whole bunch of new paint schemes. Good looking field.
Yeah, definitely. It is a great looking field here tonight. Some really talented designers here in the field, including Christopher Darling, Mr. MaxGrafix.co himself, running second on that high line, trying to really turn around after last season, trying to get all the kinks sorted out. Drew, we saw a lot of races where that number 11 machine had a shot at getting victory lane, but either shot himself in the foot or got wrapped up in some other incident. So we'll see, I'm sure, here this year, Chris Darling trying to make strides, fix those issues he had last year so he can really have a shot at the title here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. But this is your front pack right now. It goes all the way from JT Poole back to Travis White in the number 23 machine, running down in 12th. This kind of 12 truck breakaway right now as we close in on lap number 20. These drivers will probably start to think about coming down pit road here, Drew, and by my math, probably the next 5 or so laps to make their first pit stop. The 2 machine there in the outside wall. That's Justin White, who falls 1 lap down in his Chevy Silverado. There he is. Probably lost the draft, Drew, because it doesn't look like a whole lot of damage on the number 2 Silverado, but scraping off the right side, trying to make it just a little bit narrower and make it more aerodynamic.
Absolutely. And a quick update here, Peter. Matt Cherry, our pole sitter, disconnected from the race. I didn't see any incidents for that 38 truck. He just pulled it down on pit road. I mean, who knows? Real life can happen, folks. I hope that driver, that number 38, Matt Cherry, is all in well, because he just pulled that thing off and parked it. So there will not be our first pole winner that wins the race here tonight. But we got a few trucks on pit road. Looks like that number 9, as well as his teammate, the number 50, Ben Izinga, down as well, and TJ Buck in the 84. So 4 of our leaders in that front group making pit stops here on lap 20, basically splitting this stage in half. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the field responds to this.
Yeah, and you see it's the S2R teammates out there all running together, coming down pit road all at the same time. I was expecting maybe just a little bit longer here, Drew, but, you know, keeping in mind the fact that we do have that stage break at lap number 40, they're basically just splitting the first stage in half here. We'll see if they drag any other drivers onto pit road. Looks like they will. Here comes Chris Darling, the number 11 machine, Ben Mashburn, the 26 at JT Pool, another couple of teammates trying to get down onto pit road. So really surprised that they're kind of coming down pit road in groups here. I mean, that's not always a bad thing because we've seen accidents of drivers getting onto pit road all together at the same time, running into each other, that type of thing. But only 3 cars this time. We saw 4 trucks last time. So definitely kind of be interesting to see who comes down pit road this time. Is up at the front of the field, it's Ben Adams in the number 5 machine, Paul Bilson in second, Jason Freeman, Doug Neal, Travis White, all up in the lead pack within about 15 seconds back to Colin Ullery, who picked up the Taz Racing Customs Super Speedway Series title last night here on 3Y TV. That was a great race, and here comes this group of trucks down pit road here, Drew.
Yeah, Colin was so quick that whole season in that Super Speedway Series. We'll see if that translates here tonight. Hasn't run too close to the front thus far, but a bunch of trucks on pit road. Ben Adams, our race leader at the time of pitting, along with the 77 and the 23, who are definitely teammates based on their paint schemes. 2 really cool looking trucks, basically just kind of different colorations of the same scheme, and that will hand the race lead to the number 51 truck of Paul Wilson, who actually pitted. He just managed to lead that lap. So I think this just about cycles everything, Peter. I guess we'll see this time by, but it's how does this field kind of filter out together, because it's going to be interesting. Is that number 20, Jason Freeman, our current race leader?
It's currently the 00 of David Harvey, who's atop the leaderboard right now. Tristan Mayer right behind him. Barry Knapp, Kyle Lewis. We got these 4 trucks all kind of working together. We'll see if they come down pit road this time. Looks like a couple of them peeling off there at the back of the group. Barry Knapp and Kyle Lewis. So they are on pit road right now. David Harvey, Tristan Mayer, they stay out there on the racetrack. So 2 trucks yet to pit here tonight at Daytona. We'll see when they elect to come down pit road, but I'm not all too surprised here, Drew. I kind of said I felt like, 24, 25 laps was probably the pit window, and these 2 trucks kind of proving that. Meanwhile, we got a bunch of trucks trying to come off pit road, but so far, the drivers who had the best pit stop, well, here they are. Bill Edwards, the number 9 machine, James Arello, Ben Izenga, the 07, and look at Christopher Darling and JT Pool. Great job by Chris Darling. He hasn't dropped the cheesecake just yet. If you watch us here on 3Y TV, on Wednesday night, cheesecakes are very much in, and we like to say, don't drop the cheesecake. Well, Chris, better not be dropping any cheesecakes on pit road here tonight. So far, so good for driver of the number 11 MaxGrafix.co Ford. And look at TJ Buck there in the number 84 machine sneaking into the picture as well in that chromatic number 84 machine.
I really like the way that 84 looks. Just man, it's a really good looking field this time, or this season rather. Last year was really cool, and it seems like just everybody has stepped up their designs just a little bit, and has made this probably. There's a ton. 84 really cool. Reminds me of the old Jeff Gordon color chromatic paint scheme and all sorts of spec maps and everything under the sun out there. But interesting enough with this front pack, we're talking about teammates because, again, especially when there's only 7 cars in this lead pack, 2 sets of 3 teammates basically. The number 07 of Izinga, the number 9 of James Zarella, number 50 of Bill Edwards, all teammates. And then the 11, the 26, and the 24 in that outside lane, they're all teammates. I'm trying to figure out, I'm kind of going through the list right now, who TJ Buck's a teammate with, but I don't think it's with any of these drivers. I actually know for a fact that it's not any of these sets of 3. But it'll be interesting to see because I think that 84 can make a big difference as Chris Darling ducks low in front of that number 50 truck and trying to shore up that race lead. It'll be interesting to see how does the 50 respond. We haven't really seen him be too satisfied. Bill Edwards running in second position, been fairly assertive with his maneuvers. And how quickly will he try to get back up there? And does this high lane work with just two trucks? That's going to be a heck of an effort for those guys on the outside lane, JT Poole and Ben Mashburn, to be able to keep that high lane rolling there, Pete, because just two trucks doesn't generate a lot of momentum. So you got to work pretty hard to make that thing stay up there.
Absolutely. When we know that the number 24 machine, Ben Mashburn, what we've seen, he is very, very good on these super speedways. He was up there in the point standings in the Thursday night Super Speedway Series. In fact, if you're interested in the Super Speedway Series, folks, they're going to actually be moving to the Truck Series. The trucks, I should say. They were running the Cup cars. Now they're going to be running the trucks because the trucks put on a little bit better show, let's be honest, in the Cup cars with the current packages. Oh, that inside line, a little bit of a bad nudge there on the back of Chris Darling. And they almost had a moment. They break free, and they're going to have to reshuffle to try and get the teammates back together. But that inside line, JT Poole now to the front for the first time here tonight, trying to complete lap number 27. We'll have 13 laps till the stage break, but all of a sudden, there goes Ben Mashburn on the high line trying to challenge for the lead.
The driver with the best F1 style three-letter moniker, JT Poole, is was our race leader that last time by. Now the second truck on the inside lane is the 24 Ben Mashburn, cuts low, and now James Lorello challenging with Ben Izinga behind him on the high lane. Here comes their teammate, the number 50, our race leader, just feels like 20 seconds ago. That number 50 of Bill Edwards. Two sets of teammates working together. TJ Buck kind of hanging out behind them. But yeah, we saw with that 50 a bit of an aggressive bump to Chris Darling. I believe that's what kind of unsettled that pack and shook things up just a little bit. We basically went from the MaxGrafix Racing set of teammates as, that's a tight squeeze with the number 39 of Stan Houseman. But everybody gets through there fairly cleanly. The 24 is still on the apron. He's going to need to merge up before the turn. He does, and they manage to navigate that fairly well, as that 39 is fairly torn up and significantly off pace, and that just caused just a little bit of turmoil with this front group. Not terribly surprising. Daytona looks really wide, and I think with this newer version, right, this, I believe it's 2011 version of Daytona, short was, at this point, pretty freshly repaved, and so it's fairly smooth, and it allows you to race more cars side by side. But three wide is really only temporarily doable here, even in these trucks, even at this flat version of or smooth version of Daytona. It still can be really tricky to pass these lap vehicles just because you can't run door to door because these things still move around a lot in this draft.
Yeah, and we saw that moment of three wide in the tri-oval almost end in tears there when the field was trying to get around the Brookstone Animal Hospital number 39 machine of Stan Hausman. And a big shout out to Stan Hausman and Brookstone Animal Hospital, one of the series sponsors this year, that we will be giving out the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. And if you don't know what the Lucky Dog is here, folks, the Lucky Dog is, at the time of the caution, the first truck that is one or more laps down will be getting a free lap. And if they're one lap down, they'll get back on the lead lap. If they're two laps down, they'll be one lap down, so on and so forth. And Brookstone Animal Hospital, located just outside the greater Atlanta, Georgia area, they are on board once again this year, and really cool to have Stan Hausman and his family sponsoring here in the National Sim Racing Association. What about the other series sponsors here? MaxGrafix.co, we've highlighted them. Buttkicker, we've highlighted them. They're going to be sponsoring the Buttkicker Challenge. But what about Craig's Setup Shop, sponsoring the Pole Award so far this season? Taz Racing Customs back sponsoring the Biggest Mover Award here in the 2021A season. And what about Stay Tuned Sports? Their podcast, there's a link in the description to their podcast. You can go check that out. They recently interviewed Andrew Himmelman, which is a really cool interview to go listen to. Make sure you go do that, as this field up at the front of the field, the Stay Tuned Sports truck, driven by the number 9 machine, James Arello, trying to get out front there. We were just talking about them, Drew. But they're really putting on a show up here at the front as we close in on the stage break. These drivers want to get the first points of the season. First points of the season here are being awarded in 9 laps. That's right. On lap number 40, you can get points if you finish inside the top 10. And you will notice here, folks, the top 7 is in this pack. There's a couple of stragglers that are trucks a lap down who are trying to pick up that Brookstone Animal Hospital award for that lucky dog. Doug Milner and Stan Hausman himself. I feel like Stan Hausman should get it just because he is Mr. Brookstone Animal Hospital himself, but Stan Hausman there on the right-hand side of your screen and the number 6 machine, Doug Milner, battling for that as everyone else is battling for the points. But then there's a big gap back to this group right here. That's currently led by Jason Freeman in the number 20 machine. Paul Bilson and Ben Adams there with him, with Doug Neal and Travis White. These drivers also trying to pick up points here, Drew, because the bonus points at the stage break go all the way through the 10th position.
Yeah, and those bonus points, as is in real life, can really make a big difference come whether you make the chase or the playoffs, whatever term you want to use, or not, and just competing, right? Like they can be a big deal. Personally, I just kind of like racing to fold out organically, and if there's cautions, there's cautions, but I totally understand why people would want to implement stages. I think number one, just the kind of immersion, right? Like a lot of the times you just kind of want to replicate what they're doing in real life, and number two, you kind of get a little bit of a reset if you have a bad beginning of the race. It's going to be great for either Doug Milner or Stan Hausman if there isn't a caution between now and then, or they get to another lap truck. The number 40 looks like he'll be the next one, but these guys still racing side by side, and just teammates broken up a little bit here, Pete, as we gotta kind of have a mixture. TJ Buck on that inside lane, 3 trucks on the inside, 4 trucks on the high lane. I expect that high lane to prevail here in just a little bit, but that's not necessarily a guarantee. And one thing I've noticed here, Peter, is how unstable these trucks are. It seems like, number one, they're just kind of loose when you're not running right up on somebody. And then it certainly seems like they don't bump each other very well. I think basically every moment that we have seen has been a little bit of a tap, and it just seems like that if you're just slightly off center, or if your momentum is going in different directions, if you're kind of going, like kind of fading to the bottom and they're just staying straight, like that can darn near send trucks around. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well, because typically these trucks are some of the more compliant stock cars as far as bumping is concerned, but that doesn't seem to be the case tonight.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. We're looking out back right now of Nick Bradley in the number 40 machine. I thought that was some of the cars that were being caught about to go a lap down, but that is not the case. He's running right behind the number 28 machine of Jamar Dumas, who started up near the front of the field, but has dropped to well back here tonight. So far, your biggest mover of the race has been JT Poole in the MaxGrafix racing team. He's picked up 27 positions here in the opening 36 laps or so of the season. And whoa, what a block the number 11 of Chris Darling just threw on James Orello. He's looking out his rearview mirror as they go past the number 10 machine to put him 2 laps down. That is Monty, in fact, more than 2 laps down. Monty Glover in that 10 Silverado. He is currently being scored 36th position, about 10 laps down here at Daytona. Definitely not the night he was hoping for, but man, with the weaving and dodging that number 11 machine is doing, they're racing like it's the last lap here already at Daytona.
And he certainly wants that stage win now. Just about 4 laps to go till that stage break. Yeah, unfortunately for that number 10 truck, Amani Glover, he had a throughput. When your internet doesn't meet iRacing standards, sometimes iRacing just basically disconnects you, and that is unfortunately what happened to that number 10 truck. Able to reconnect, able to rejoin, but now 10 laps down. Quite a few trucks multiple laps down, with the number 99, 18, and 10 all being 2 laps down or more. So those guys hoping to see a bunch of cautions in order to get some laps back. But here we go, Peter. Now 3 to go in the stage before we get our first kind of man-made caution. Man, James Orello does not look like he is going to be willing to stay behind that number 11 without making a move. But it's just, where does he go? Does he go high? Does he go low? Does he force it 3 wide? Because, yeah, there's a stage break in their stage points, but if you wreck on lap 40, you still wrecked, regardless if there's a stage or not, and regardless if you won the stage or not. So it'll be interesting to see how aggressive these guys approach the stage break, as here comes James Orello cutting to the inside of that number 11 of Chris Darling here, Peter. He's making a move now. Ben Izenga, his teammate, going with Chris Darling.
Yeah, so Izenga there on the high side. He is teammates with that number 9 machine who's challenging for the race lead. But look at JT Poole there in the number 26. He's trying to get to the back bumper of the number 9 machine, but as they go across the start-finish line, it is Christopher Darling who will lead yet another lap, just 2 laps away from the stage break. Here comes Izenga. Izenga going down below the yellow line. There's contact between the 11 and the 07, but somehow they save it up the racetrack, and oh, there's the contact. The 84 machine, heavy contact. Caution flag is out.
That is the commentator's curse, if there has ever been one. We just finished talking about how aggressive Darling had been, and this is just on Chris. He just forces that 07 basically into contact. The 07 was not going to go below the yellow line. That is out of bounds here on super speedways. And then you just kind of, unfortunately, TJ Buck is, I think, the one who paid the biggest price for this incident, is into the outside wall. And, the 6. Wow, the 6 of Doug Miller did a fantastic job in avoiding it. But that 84 is definitely going to have quite a bit of damage, and just kind of unnecessary to me, Peter. It just didn't need to be done. This is just stage points. You're not winning the race here. And Chris Darling just really aggressively blocks the 07, who's clearly alongside, and he's on the yellow line. There's nowhere for that 07 to go. He has the right to that track position, and the 11 just keeps coming down.
Yeah, like you said, definitely a tough break. And there you see Darling going up the racetrack into the 26 machine, and they go around, and definitely not going to be the night the 84 machine at TJ Buck wanted. They're still trying to save things. Oh, Doug Miller, the number 6 machine, he was trying to get back on the lead lap by means of that Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. We'll have to see what all went down. Let's see if we can go on board with the number 6 machine here of Milliner. It's all looking good, Cuts back down, and everything's good there. And he must have gotten clipped there by Ben Izenga that caused him to go up into the wall. That's kind of a secondary casualty.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. He did a fantastic late maneuver to avoid that number 84 truck. Here you go. And a high lane is a high risk, potentially high reward option. And yeah, I think Izenga just tags him, and that's unfortunate. I think Izenga's going to have some damage as well, but I think that number 6 probably has the worst damage of anybody in this, Peter. That was a massive hit to the right front of that number 6 truck, and I would be surprised if he doesn't have quite a bit of mandatory damage that he's going to have fixed. So, folks, in iRacing, as we go on board with Ben Izenga, there's 2 types of damage really in iRacing. There's mandatory and optional. Essentially, if your truck is damaged to the point that iRacing deems that it is essentially unsafe to drive or unfit to rejoin the race, it's going to require you to get X minutes, seconds of damage repaired. And then on top of that, you have kind of what iRacing considers optional damage, which is basically damage that you can get fixed and will help you be more competitive, but isn't necessary. It's going to be interesting to see how those trucks are able to get back out there if they lose a couple laps or not, because you can pretty easily get several minutes of required damage here, especially when we're running at the speeds that we're running at. And our Brookstone Animal Lucky Dog Award winner, the first of the points season, is, of course, none other than Stan Houseman, sponsored by Brookstone Animal Hospital. So a very fitting Lucky Dog Award there for Stan. And so, Peter, another update as well. Chris Darling given a black flag. He has been deemed to be at fault for that incident, like we said earlier.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be a tough break for the number 11 machine. Now, the good news is for you fans of the number 11 machine, that's not the number 11 machine. There's the number 11 machine, the MaxGrafix car. Not a whole lot of damage. It looks like he was able to get on and off pit road, get as much damage repaired as possible, but I'm sure he'll be able to draft on up. So, for Chris Darling, yeah, he's going to have to drop to the back of the field. You see him letting everyone by, but all things considered, could have been a lot worse. But the big question is, who led that last lap, Drew? I don't have the lap number 40 results because everyone was on pit road. Everything was getting shuffled up there in the field. It might have been the number 24 machine of Ben Mashburn, who was the first off of pit road here tonight for really our first caution flag that we've seen. And that BetAngles.com machine is going to lead us back to green flag. BetAngle's another one of the series sponsors in the 2021 A Series. Big shout out to them for jumping on board. Make sure you check out betangles.com. Before the end of the night, there's a link in the description of the YouTube video as well. And make sure to hit that like button. We love to see as many likes as we can get here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. We're up to 12 likes here tonight. That is absolutely awesome, folks. If you can keep bumping up that number, we'd really appreciate it here on 3 Wide TV. But Drew, the pace truck lights are off. We're about to get set to go back to racing here for only the second time here tonight, as this was the opening caution flag, and we've seen some really good racing. I wonder if that incident right there, especially considering that was the one and only stage break we're going to have, the only real, full-on bonus points were just handed out. Maybe these drivers will simmer down a little bit.
I don't know. They seemed really calm until lap 38, and then the calmness quickly evaporated. And we saw our first caution, which ended up being our stage break, essentially, de facto stage break. An organic stage break, like we talked about. So there was a stage break, and there will be in the future, but this time it was organic. It just kind of, came naturally as Ben Mashburn, our leader, restarts the race. Good restart for that inside groove as they get about a car length lead on that outside lane led by the number 50. Now the number 50 is starting to really drop back, losing quite a bit of momentum. And this is the thing on the initial start, Peter, that inside lane typically has two advantages. Number one, the leader controls the restart, and he usually is going to choose that bottom lane. It's just kind of typically what you do. Number two, you don't, since you're both building up speed from the same pace speed, you don't have that pace advantage on the high lane necessarily. You might be able to get a little bit of draft and manipulate it, but typically that high lane's at quite a bit of a disadvantage. But like you'll see now, once the trucks get up to speed, it typically slingshots back up there. And that's what we're seeing from Bill Edwards now, is he was back about 5th position, and now he is going to be potentially racing for the race lead here down into turn 1, the 50, with quite a bit of momentum.
Yeah, that 50 had a huge push from Travis White back behind him. Great to see Travis White back up in the lead pack, because you remember that, Drew, around lap number 7 or so, the field really got broken up when there was contact up at the front of the field between the number 1 machine of Jason Gracias and a couple of the other trucks around him, and the field never was really able to form back up. So this is the first time we've seen a big field, a big pack, since lap number 7 here tonight at Daytona. The field was able to keep things going green till right there on the lap number 38, but we're back green flag and everyone pushing and shoving to try and get as much track position as they can. Ben Mashburn leads another lap. James Arello right back behind him. Doug Neal, how about that number 77 machine here, Drew? We know Doug Neal knows how to get around Daytona. We saw in the Taz Racing Customs Super Speedway Series, he was always a threat here at this particular 2.5 mile super speedway, and he also qualified on the pole for last year's race here at Daytona. So keep an eye on that bright yellow, the chartreuse number 77 machine of Doug Neal.
Yeah, Doug has been so good at these restrictor plate tracks in the truck series. It's not surprising to see him running towards the front. Man, that 50 truck, he fell back to about 10th position. The number 5 just reappeared back there. That was horrifying, as he reappeared inside of another truck. And that is about as scary of a moment as you can have. We'll cue that replay up for you, folks. And that number 5 will blink away right there. Yep. We're looking at exactly where he blinked out, and this is and then boom, he rejoins inside of that white truck to the outside. I believe that was Ben Izenga. Man, that is a scary moment for the entirety of that field there, Peter, when a truck just suddenly blinks out and then comes back inside of another truck.
Yeah, that was almost a big moment. Unfortunately, that's one of the things you kind of just have to live with in sim racing. You just have to live with the fact that you might have connection troubles. And if those connection troubles, just happen to work out like that, then, it can just be bad for you.
Certainly can. I think that most people, when they've been around iRacing long enough, they've seen an incident caused by that type of thing. As JT Poole an unfortunate victim of that big crash there earlier, now going a lap down that 26 truck with a ton of damage. Really, really, really off pace. And they managed to navigate that fairly cleanly. Now James Arello ducks high, goes in front of his teammate Bill Edwards, going to be looking to take the race lead from the number 24 truck, now getting pushed by Doug Neal. And typically that when that second truck pulls out, that really slows down that inside lane, and it's going to give quite a big boost to that outside lane. We'll see if Lorello can get up there and take this race lead here on lap 47 of 120. Closing in on halfway is, yes, that number 9 truck does steal that race lead away from him, but now they're coming up on that 6 as well. Another one of those trucks involved, and so far they mostly get around him cleanly. The number 6 got in the wall a little bit, but no real dramas there, as now we are side by side, 6 rows deep.
Yeah, absolutely awesome racing here at the front of the field. Look at Nathan Maurer. He's trying to get to the back bumper of his teammate, Doug Neal. The number 77 Chartreuse machine and that bright orange number 971. Just a couple of trucks back behind him. Nathan Maurer always fast as well here on the super speedways here in his Simbox truck.
Yeah, that number 19 running fairly well. A little bit of damage earlier did Evan Gilbert have, but he's running really well. It's the number 7 truck, I believe, of Garrett Gleason was that truck on the apron that just is rejoining the race. I'm not sure what happened to him. He was on the lead lap that last time by. TJ Buck there, another one of those trucks, another one of those guys that didn't have anything to do with that wreck. And he, unfortunately, is another one of those guys paying the prices. He is really slow. Hopefully gets by him as well. As up front, those 2 leaders still side by side there, Peter. And this is what we're talking about when these guys get heavily damaged is indeed correct, by the way. That graphic could not be more accurate. But that you can feel really boxed in if you're the 3rd and 4th cars in these lines and they just aren't going anywhere. And you feel like you can't do anything. And that sometimes can lead guys to become a little impatient and just kind of make maneuvers that you probably shouldn't make just because they feel like they're not making any progress, because they're not, because there's nowhere to go. And that's a lot of the time what you can see is when guys just kind of lose their cool because they're trying to make their way up to the front.
Yeah, absolutely. But you have to say, Drew, at this point of the race, we're closing in on the halfway mark. A lot of the field is together. They are minding their P's and Q's. Yes, we saw some slicey, dicey action there as we closed in on the halfway mark. Or not the halfway mark, excuse me, but the one stage break we had on lap number 40. But they've really calmed things down. A lot of people just kind of holding their line. We're not seeing as much shoving as we were. We're seeing a lot of shoving, a lot of bump drafting there leading up to the stage break. But it seems like things are calming down. Drivers are leaving a little bit more space in between one another because they know they have to get to lap 120 here tonight. There's still a long way to go in this particular race. And just thinking about fuel strategy here, Drew, we probably have, about 3 more pit stops to make. We see about 20 to 25 laps. If you do the math, they all pitted around lap number 40. If you had drivers go, 20 laps, you'd make it to 60, you'd make it to 80, you'd make it to 100. So that's 3 pit stops. I don't think anyone's going to be able to stretch it to 26 laps, 27 laps, because then that starts to get into the realm of maybe only making 2 more pit stops. But that's quite a bit longer than what we saw under that first green flag cycle. But of course they did know, you see Tristan Maher down there, 24 laps was how long he was able to stretch it on his first stint. A lot of drivers kind of split that first stage in half, as Paul Bilson in the number 51 machine, he's coming off of pit road. So I'm seeing a lot of drivers possibly with damage out there on the racetrack. Not sure what happened to Paul Bilson as he reemerges on the backstretch. Just looking to see if anything popped up kind of on my list of events in the race to see if something came up, but I'm not seeing anything. So Paul Bilson must have gotten damaged at some point here tonight, Drew.
Yeah.
All right, folks, I do apologize. We did lose about half a lap, but everything appears to be good on my end again. I just had to disconnect and reconnect to the YouTube. Hopefully it stays good this time. Let me know if all things are good. Yeah, we're hearing people saying it's back. Okay, good. Maybe it's just a busy night for the YouTube here. Not 100% sure, but all things considered, you didn't lose a whole lot of the action here. Just that number 24 machine of Ben Mashburn continuing to lead the way with James Arello to his outside. Writer Angle in the chat saying everything's good. We got Crapton Crap. I love that name, Crapton Crap. It's fun to say. Peter John Serto saying not clear yet. Maybe try refreshing, Peter, if that seems to help. You might have to hit Control plus F5 for a hard refresh. Sometimes that helps clear the cache and all that good stuff. Stay tuned Sports in the chat. Scott Crump saying it is pretty sharp out there. Stay tuned Sports saying it's kind of a Stay Tuned Sports night. I'll tell you what, hopefully YouTube gets their act together and we can get the show on the road nice and smoothly. I'm just making sure everything's good on my end. Yeah, connection seems strong and strong action out there on the racetrack as well. But Drew, we're watching the lap counter up there in the top left. We're getting into that realm where we're getting close to 20 laps since we last came down pit road. So, you know, I don't think we'll see anyone on pit road just yet, especially now with the fact that there is no guaranteed cautions to the end of the race. As you see the field catching up to the back of TJ Buck yet again. So I think we'll see these drivers probably stretch it out 22 to 25 laps under this particular run.
Yeah, but like you said, Peter, you're getting close to that edge where I think if a team saves enough fuel and you have 3 or 4 trucks, that might work. It'll be interesting to see because 22 to 25, right? That high end is close enough to make it a possible, I think, viable strategy. And we've seen these guys work together well as teammates. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm really looking at S2R, right? The 07 of Ben Izinga, the number 50 of Bill Edwards, number 9 of James Arello. But what you can't be doing, Peter, if you want to make that strategy work, you can't be the lead guy of one of these lines like James Arello's been this whole time. It's going to be a really big challenge. He's been getting as bad a fuel mileage as you can get, and maybe unless you're Mashburn in that number 24, who's similarly going to really struggle to save any type of fuel here, and it's likely those 2 trucks, I think, are going to probably be some of the first 2 onto pit road if everybody runs these things darn near dry. Because you just can't save fuel when you're the race leader here, right? You're the only one who's wide open the whole time. You are the one cutting through the air. You get the worst gas mileage. Everybody behind you is pedaling it to some extent. So I think if these guys continue to or attempt to really push their fuel mileage, it's going to be that 24 truck that's going to be the indicator as to when these guys are going to have to start pitting.
Yeah, Ben Mashburn is smashing the gas, burning as much fuel as basically anyone else in the field. Here comes the number 19 machine with a fantastic run around that high side. Look at Evan Gilbert. I haven't really mentioned his name here tonight in that number 19 Toyota Tundra. I'm used to saying number 19 Toyota Camry, but here tonight he's in the Tundra. And I'll tell you what, he's trying to get himself to the front for the first time here tonight with a little bit of a banged up truck right now.
Yeah, certainly the 19's still competitive, despite the little bit of a bent up front end for that Subway Toyota Tundra. But he's making that outside lane work, and man, I am really shocked that Highline is able to work with only 2 trucks. And when I mean only 2 trucks, I mean literally only 2 trucks. I don't see anyone else within drafting distance, essentially, that is going to be working with these guys, and we'll see how long it works, because typically you can get a little bit of an early surge even with 2 trucks and kind of make some ground up on that outside lane, but it's that prolonged outside, small group of outside trucks that tends to struggle, especially when you only have 2 trucks. It's just you need that third guy typically to be pushing that second truck to then surge ahead and push that first truck to usually really make that work. And I think we're starting to see that number 19 slip back now as Peter Serto just not quite able to stay on the rear bumper of that number 19 truck. Maybe get a little hot. That's one thing, Peter, that I had questions about is we've seen guys be really tucked up against the tailgates of these trucks, and you would think, just kind of based on how these trucks are laid out, there's no air behind the tailgates of these things because they're so flat, and that spoiler basically carves out that area, and it's almost a pure vacuum back there, that I wonder how long you can push somebody before you overheat a little bit, because I think that might come into play. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I would love to talk to some guys after the race and figure that out, because I would imagine that just kind of based on the shape of these trucks that you'd probably start to overheat after a while.
Yeah, you can just see when they come out of the corner as, oh, here we go. We got cars coming down pit road. Don't run over the digger cam. I think everyone just missed it there somehow, some way. But we got cars on pit road, including, we got one car in the grass as well. I think that's Brian Bradley in the number 16 machine going off. And coming back onto the roof, David Harvey in the 00 machine. He needs probably a new pair of underwear here. As well, that doesn't help very much there, Peter. You can't see anything. But a whole bunch of people on pit road. Ooh, Ben Mashburn must have had a moment as well, Drew, in the number 24 machine. Let's see if we can figure out what happened to the number 24 machine, because he is in all heaps of trouble right now. As he, I believe he got spun around coming on pit road, had the 041 machine right behind him. There's contact. And oh my goodness, your race leader into the inside wall, the 41 of Tony Lucarelli, also having a big moment. That is absolute disaster for the BetAngles.com F-150.
Yeah, that's kind of odd. iRacing does that sometimes, where every vehicle should essentially be able to drive through every other vehicle on pit road, but sometimes that's not the case, and that's what we saw right there. And yeah, that's kind of why you're supposed to stay to the outside and then only start cutting down when you're going into your pit box. That 24's pit box was right there, and that number 41's was actually before his, but they still made contact, and that's unfortunate for both of those drivers, but especially Ben Mashburn, who was really displaying good control of this race for a large portion post stage break for about the last 20 laps or so. But that is going to be absolutely killer. Quite a bit of damage on that 24 truck, but we still have some guys staying out here. Is our race leader, and I believe that is what the number 5 truck of Ben Adams, who stayed out, and the number 10, who is a lapped car as well. But I think basically the other 2 trucks, I think the 51 pitted. So we saw that happen under green. So the 5 is the only legal lap truck out there. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. He's only running 176 miles an hour, Peter, so that doesn't seem particularly quick. So how long will that 5 truck stay out?
Yeah, unfortunately, looks like Peter Serto got nabbed for speeding on pit road. Other driver who got a penalty will be the number 16 machine of Brian Bradley. We saw him go out into the grass. That got himself a penalty. But looking up and down, we saw Ben Mashburn a long time on pit road. I said the 41 was Tony Lucarelli. I'm used to him, Lucarelli, driving the number 41 machine. It's Tristan Mayer here tonight in the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series. But look at this gaggle as they're back out there onto the racetrack. Here comes the number 5 of Ben Adams. He's coming down pit road. There was someone back behind him. I think that's the 51 machine who was thinking of going down behind him. That is Paul Bilson. But, Ben Adams, the number 5 machine. Yeah, okay. I saw him dropping like a stone on the scoring pylon, but that's because he's on pit road. But back up at the front of the field, these drivers have already made their pit stop, and they're out there on the racetrack right now. As your race leader, Bill Edwards, Ben Izenga, and James Arella, the S2R machines, back together 3 in a row there, Drew, on the high side.
Yeah, and they're pretty much the only team kind of left intact after that big incident that we saw that basically took the majority of the MaxGrafix Racing team out, and then the number 24 unfortunately had that incident on pit road. So I think it's basically the 11, and I can't quite recall who his teammate is. I'm trying to dig through my brain. I can't recall. Maybe the number 60 truck by Matt Vanderkooi. I think those are the only guys left. But I mean, there are other Ford truck teams out there, but just not a ton. Is the number 16 of Brian Bradley. Where is he running? I think he is a couple laps down, if I'm not mistaken. The first truck a lap down, so he is in the position for the potential Brookstone Animal Lucky Dog Award. I'm sure he would like to see that, as long as he's not involved. But that high lane with those S2R trucks doing a really good job. But here comes Chris Darling on the inside line. Push by said Brian Bradley. Maybe going to try to get that lap back the old-fashioned way by getting in front of our race leader. But, Peter, what we've seen tonight is, man, these two lanes are super equal. It's really good to see kind of viable alternatives. Maybe that high lane is a little bit quicker, but I think if that bottom lane has numbers and is more organized, that it is going to prevail. But Bill Edwards has now cleared the number 11 truck, and he is staying high. Not a big surprise as those S2R teammates working well together. Another truck that I'm seeing kind of inch his way in there, Peter, that number 1, who had that big drama early, is the 4th truck on the inside lane. Jason Grossi is working his way back up through the field.
Yeah, and remember, Chris Darling also had his moment. He was the cause of the first caution flag of the season, the only caution flag we've had here tonight. He is now back up at the front of the race. But one thing I'm keeping my eye on is the S2R machine, Drew. You mentioned Matt Vanderkoy. He's creeping into the picture as well. He's currently running in the 7th position in the Milwaukee Brewers number 60. He's going to try and jump to the high side, I think, here pretty quickly. And if he does so, that would be a 4-truck S2R train on the high line with Edwards, Izenga, Lorello, and Vanderkoy. But for now, Vanderkoy is saying, you know what, Peter, whoa, the 11 machine, your race leader, Christopher Darling, going down below the yellow line. What happened here, Drew?
Yeah, we're going to cue that replay up for you, folks. We've been talking about how squirrely these trucks can get, especially coming out of the corners. Does the 16 give him a little bit of a nudge? Looking. It kind of looks like it. It's kind of hard to tell from that angle, but either a little bit of contact from the 50 or some contact from the 16. Yep, the 16. You saw that kind of lateral momentum difference between those two trucks is what got that 11 a little bit out of shape, and that's all it takes with these trucks. They're a lot more sensitive than I was expecting coming into tonight. And that 11, another big moment. We've seen quite a few big moments out of Chris Darling tonight, including our one and only caution thus far. But that kind of seemed like calmed the field down as they've basically gone single file through the majority of the lead pack with just 1 or 2 cars running that high lane. And Peter, this is kind of the situation that if I'm a guy trying to make fuel mileage work that I like to see, because this is when you can save a ton of fuel, is when these guys are running single file, because this is when those kind of big checkups happen. You can just roll out of that gas, clutch it in, and save quite a bit of fuel. Yeah,
that is definitely true. I know you and we have tried to use those different strategies here at Daytona, and at times much to our benefit. I remember there was one race where we as a team, Drew and we've raced on the same team before, we saved a lot of fuel, because what does that mean if you save fuel at Daytona? A lot of people are like, well, it doesn't mean a whole lot. It does, because in your final pit stop, you don't have to take as much fuel. And if you don't have to take as much fuel in your final pit stop, you don't have to stay on pit lane as much. And sometimes that, 0.4 of a second, well, here at Daytona, it can be hard to gain 0.4 of a second. I mean, right now, that's the difference between Bill Edwards and our 5th place machine of Doug Neal. In fact, that's about half a second. That little difference right there can be the track position you need to either win or lose a race. So we'll see how that continues to play out, as we have been green flagged now for about 28 laps since the one and only caution flag we've had here tonight. You see your lead pack all the way back to Nathan Maurer in the 971 machine. 16 trucks in this lead group. But let's follow up on the trucks that are behind him. Here's Nick Bradley, Steven Doziak Jr. together, running out there on the racetrack. Andrew Himmelman is together with Evan Gilbert in the number 19 machine. Now, something must have happened to Gilbert in that number 19 truck, Drew. A very lengthy pit stop time, about 12 seconds longer than most of the other trucks in the lead pack. Just based off his pit time, I think he might have taken 4 tires on that number 19 machine, but there must have been something else on pit road, because a very lengthy pit stop time for the number 19 truck here tonight.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. And you can just forget here on ovals, right? It's just one little box that you got to scroll through and uncheck, and sometimes it can slip your mind, and it will definitely ruin your race here at Daytona, which you never take 4 tires under green conditions. I can't remember a time in which you would have. Maybe the 1987 cars, if you're running the old Daytona, the bumpy Daytona, would you take 4 tires. But I think even then you would try to get away with 2 if you could make it work. But yeah, that's absolutely a race killer. But what isn't a race killer is this teamwork that we've seen all night long from S2R. And I misspoke. I identified that number 60 of Matt Vanderkoy as a MaxGrafix racing car. He's not. He's an S2R car. I just saw the Ford and assumed. You know what assumptions do to people. But Chris Darling is basically alone now. Doug Milner out. JT Poole damaged and off pace. And then Ben Mashburn had that problem coming on pit road. Those are his 3 teammates. He is now basically alone in that number 11 truck as looking down the charts. Ben Mashburn is the only teammate that he has on the lead lap, down in 22nd position, 33 seconds off of our race leader and losing quite a bit of time each lap. So that's going to take a caution for that 24 truck to get back up there, plus to get that damage fixed as well. But we basically have, I guess, 16 trucks here on the lead lap. That is in this this main pack. About 2.5 seconds separates first from 16th, but just fairly cordial right now, Peter. It seems like kind of giving the old Dale Jr. treatment, but on the bottom lane, just trying to click these laps off and get closer to the end before things start picking up again.
Yeah, and speaking about things picking up, this group of trucks right here are going to need to pick it up some because they're about to fall 1 lap down. Ben Adams in that group, as well as the number 39 of Stan Hausman, as well as the number 32 of Peter Serto. We knew Peter Serto, he got nabbed for pit road speeding penalty there. We also saw Stan Hausman, he picked up the one and only Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award earlier in the race. He's going to have to need another one to get back on the lead lap yet again as we close in on lap number 80, folks, and that will probably be pit road time for most of the field. We'll bring up the pit strategy board. You can see that Bill Edwards up top the board with Ben Isenga right back behind him. Drew, 20, 20, and 20. They're splitting this race up into sixths tonight at Daytona. Every 20 laps coming down pit road. Then you have James Arella, the other S2R machine. He's doing the exact same thing. There's been a little bit of variation there in Chris Darling, Doug Neal as well, Matt Vanderkoy. But it seems like these trucks will be on pit road here in about 5 to 6 laps up at the front of the field.
Yep, we are rapidly closing in on our 2/3 mark, which would be lap 80, as these laps continue to click by in the 50 truck leading. But we're starting to see a little more competition there on the high lane, led by that number 11 of Chris Darling with the 77 of Doug Neal behind him. Peter Serto also in tow, who I believe, let me just check the leaderboard. Yeah, Peter Serto 1 lap down. So he's not really competing for these guys, but what he is doing by running where he's running is competing for that Brookstone Animal Lucky Dog Award. If there is a caution, he is racing the number 5 truck, that white and black truck with some multicolored hash marks running down the side. As Garrett Gleason now ducking onto pit road in that awesome looking Speed Energy number 7 machine. Gleason not had the night that he has really wanted. He is 3 laps down as of this last lap. I believe this will be 4 laps down now. Will be Gleason as he is making another stop. He's been kind of out of cycle this whole race, which is, I think, kind of put him in this position. But back up front, that high lane sticking strong with 4 cars. I think 4 cars is a good number for that outside line to be competitive for more than just a little burst, as Chris Darling getting back up there and racing the number 50 of Bill Edwards. And that high lane still staying organized. That bottom lane a little strung out after about 4th or 5th position. I think the bottom lane has overall numbers, but just isn't quite organized enough to really prevail. Jason Gracias, I think, is coming up on that high lane as well, as you're about to see on your right side as we ride on board with Jordan Shepler, looking at that number 60 truck in front of him of Matt Vanderkoy. And that upper group maybe slowing down just a little bit as now we ride on board with Doug Neal in that Simbox number 77 truck, as Chris Darling falling back to about 4th position now. So he is about even with that 3rd truck on the inside lane. But again, we see that momentum really start to come back on that high lane, as still riding on board now on the inside of that number 77 truck And you can see how little you can really see here, Peter. Especially in these trucks, the way that these tailgates are, you really struggle to see through the truck in front of you. If something happens, you don't know it until the smoke basically starts happening, unless you can basically see it out of your driver's side window net. It can be a real challenge as far as vision is concerned in these trucks.
Yeah, that is definitely the case, but for right now, Bill Edwards has what he wants to see out of his front mirror. Chris Darling has what he wants to see out of his, I say front mirror, I meant front windshield. You don't have a front mirror, then you'd see everyone behind you, although I guess that's a good thing too. You want to see everyone behind you. You want to be leading here at Daytona as they head across the start-finish line once again here through the Tri-Oval, closing in on the last 100 miles here in the Stay Tuned Sports 300 here at Daytona. Bill Edwards currently your race leader by just a fraction of a second there across the start-finish line. Chris Darling in second, Ben Izenga third, Doug Neal, James Varello rounding out your top five here, Drew, and really been a stellar night. Meanwhile, let's go look a little bit further back in this pack. How about the number 62 machine, the Sim Shots, the black machine there on the high line, running right in front of the number 10 machine of Monty Glover. He's up there battling for a top 10. What about the number 48 machine? Haven't really talked about him. Robert Dudley, new number this year, Drew, for that Toyota Tundra. We saw him so fast last year in the number 15 machine, and a new looking scheme on that truck this year.
He's one of those guys that, I mean, he ran exceptionally well. I believe he won Las Vegas, if memory serves me correctly. But kind of had an unfortunate string of luck there that I think kept him from competing in more races, but I certainly think he had quite a bit of speed, especially earlier in the season. I think as the season went along, he might maybe struggled just a little bit more than some of his competitors earlier in the season. Guys like Mitchell Adams just came on so strong late that it was pretty hard for anybody to compete with both James Zarello and Mitchell Adams. Those guys were just so quick last season. Well, time will tell if that holds true this time. But we have lots of lap traffic and guys coming down pit road. Basically chaos. Oh, the 41 gets spun into Izinga. That won't bring out a caution, I guess. But a ton of chaos as the number 41 of Tony Lucarelli and the 24, I believe, got together again this time coming on pit road. Those guys were getting lapped by our leaders. Here's that replay for you. The number 24, he's going to be coming onto pit road, and he has to just get down, and he got tagged by the number 5. Then he tags the 41. The 5, quite a bit of right front damage. And quite frankly, Peter, I thought this was just going to be a big old wad of cars coming on pit road, because you're already really pushing those trucks to the limit as far as slowing down is concerned. If somebody spins in front of you, just the spinning slows you down more than braking ever could. And when you're coming down pit road, you're on maximum brake. You can't slow down anymore, and you typically just pile into those guys. Izinga with a little bit of contact there with Mashburn as he was getting it back under control. But honestly, Peter, that went, I mean, considering the amount of contact involved, that went pretty well for basically everybody on the lead lap.
Yeah, and you see a lot of trucks still on pit road. Chris Darling now coming down pit road in his number 11 machine. He comes to his pit box and neatly into his pit box. He only has to do that one more time here tonight. He will be very happy to see that. Just looking to see, Drew, because, you know, we had all those cars kind of get slideways. They're coming onto pit road to see if any of these drivers got nabbed for any type of pit road speeding penalty or, you know, an unsafe pit entry or anything like that. Not seeing anything nothing really is jumping out at me right now. Ben Mashburn and Tristan Mayer, however, both of those cars are still in their pit box. Same thing with Evan Gilbert. Lengthy stop for the number 19 machine. He's been in his pit box now for near on a minute. We're watching these trucks who are still out there on the racing surface, just waiting to come down pit road. We'll see if we can bring up the graphic so you guys at home can see their current strategy that they're on. 21 lap stint for Doug Neal right now in the sim box number 77 machine. Just seeing if anything else has happened. Doesn't really look like it, but out of those cars that have already been down pit road, Bill Edwards in the number 50 machine, he's leading a little bit of an S2R train once again, the 50, the 9, the 07 altogether. But look at Jason Gracias there with the number 20, one of the drivers that we haven't talked about a whole lot tonight. That's Jason Freeman sneaking up into the picture as well in that Chevrolet at the back of this 5-car group.
Yeah, I think that's the first time we've seen a new scheme on that number 20 of Jason Freeman. I expect him to be another guy that's going to be up front quite a bit this season. Won, I believe, his first 2 starts last year. Didn't run full time, wasn't in the chase or anything like that, but showed exceptional pace at darn near every track that was a non-restrictor plate track. Just restrictor plate tracks tend to be a little more chaotic, and the guys that are quick at a intermediates aren't necessarily going to be able to display their pace at a plate track because of their nature. But here we go. More drivers coming off pit road. Mitchell Adams, Ben Adams, the number 62 of Ullery, quite a few other drivers, Doug Neal. And I think that, yeah, what you mentioned, Peter, is these guys really nailed their pit stops, and it's going to be really tough, especially with the lap times they've been running in basically the mid 180-mile mark. It's going to be hard for those guys that stayed out to keep up with the guys that pitted in this front 5 group, and it'll be interesting to see if these guys can now reform and try to catch these guys in front of them, because that's basically their only shot, but they're pretty spread out here.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I mean, this is probably the next biggest group of trucks out there right now. You got 5 cars up at the front of the field, really well lined up. Then you got this group, including the 16 of Brian Bradley, who's, I believe, 1 lap down there. They're kind of racy with one another. You got to stay all hooked up together if you're going to try and run down that front pack, because they're coming out of turn number 2 right now here, Drew. And if we pull up this camera, there goes your race leaders, your front 5, and then you have this long gap back to the next group of cars. I think that group is led by Robert Dudley. And granted, Dudley's group in that number 48 machine do kind of appear to kind of be forming up just a little bit, and there's another group back behind them, but we might be down to the 5 machine of Ben Adams. He's coming down pit road this time, so that pack's going to lose one of those trucks in it. That's not good for them. But this front group of 5 trucks, I mean, they have one more pit stop to make, Drew. We know that. They can't make it to the end of the race from this point on fuel. But with that stellar pit stop, especially from the S2R boys, as well as Gracias and Freeman kind of tagging on to the S2R train, they've really gapped themselves back to Robert Dudley. And in fact, right now you can see they're about 7 seconds or so ahead of the number 48 machine. That is really significant here, folks.
These guys are just doing such a good job in this top 5. Despite, I mean, the number 1's hood is still not nearly as smooth as the guys around him, but they're holding this thing really, really well. I'm going to go ahead and click on the guys behind them and compare lap times. A 49 flat for Robert Dudley in 6th position. And basically you're comparing the lead truck of the second pack to the last truck of the first pack, because that's kind of what matters. And about a half a second faster was our front 5, the Jason Freeman running a 48.5 compared to a 49 flat. So that's what those guys want to see. But our leader's coming up to a bunch of lap traffic going in the middle 3 wide. That's about as dangerous, as smooth as you could do. As the 99's on the apron, what is the 20 and the 1 going to do? How can they navigate this? Because this is when you can lose that draft, Peter. This is really dangerous for that 4th and 5th place driver, because those guys up front can make a move and that hole might not be there. You have to get out of the gas, and all of a sudden, boom, you're several seconds behind, and you're going to be racing that second pack. But I think these guys did a pretty good job keeping it all together. So we're going to get that replay queued up for you, folks. As, man, that is not what I would have done if I was the 50 truck, but it worked out exceptionally well for Bill Edwards. Is splitting the middle of a group of off-pace trucks doesn't always work out in your benefit, as, oh man, that's just so tight, and you don't know what's wrong with these trucks. If they have suspension issues, that they're wobbling all over the place, you just don't know. But a great job by our front 5, and now, Peter, they picked up even more trucks, and they're going to have even more pace, and this is honestly about as good of a situation as you could have asked for.
Yeah, absolutely. With them picking up more trucks that are a lap down, and those drivers that are a lap down, including the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman right there in the SimShots Chevrolet, he doesn't have any damage on that race truck. And of course, he wants to pick up the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, so you don't think he's just going to roll out of the gas and play it easy here. He's going to try and stay with those front pack. He's going to try and push them to keep them going forward. And that second group of trucks that's now led by Robert Dudley, they're side by side. They're racing here at Daytona. They realize that they need to try and close in on the lead pack, but it is ballooned up to almost 8 seconds now, Drew. That front pack really getting away.
They certainly are, Peter, and it's just going to be really hard for those guys. I mean, even if they get organized, 8 seconds is in the next 30 laps. I don't think that's doable. I think those guys have to have a caution. I think it is. If this thing continues to go green the rest of the way, I think it's over as far as 6th on back is concerned. It's now a battle between 5th on up, and yeah, even if they started to catch the pack, which I think is very unlikely, they're going to have to average 3, 4, 5 tenths a second a lap to be able to get up there and actually catch those guys, which is just not. They're losing time still, so it's going to require a caution. But it's a pretty good situation if you're one of these top 5. I think you're just going to ride this thing out to about lap 112 is about when I would, if I were the 5th position truck, I would start to make things happen, because anything before that, you're just going to cost yourself track position, especially with these lap trucks around them. But Robert Dudley, who only about 3 tenths slower that last time by, which is progress, he's getting a heck of a shove in that last shot. But back up front, they're basically doing the exact same thing. Lorello all over the tailgate of that number 50 truck, and they're just working so well together. Everybody knows that there's still more race left, and all we're doing, racing side by side, is costing us time.
Yeah, you can see Jordan Scheffler there with the number 62, Colin Ulrich to his outside. Mitchell Adams there with the number 49 machine. Remember, Drew, early in the race, it looked like that 49 machine was damaged and off the pace. Well, he's now staying in tune with this second group. Your reigning 2-time series champion in the MaxGrafix.co, number 49. Oh, Matt Vanderkoy in the 60 machine somehow able to save it, but boy, that was a moment. Not the first time we've seen here tonight. A fantastic save by these drivers. Let's see what happened here. Running right in front of the number 11 machine of Chris Darling. Was there a nudge? Yes, there was. And Vanderkoy doing a stellar job of saving that Ford F-150.
Not the best night for the number 11. He's been involved in basically every moment. And yeah, he just gets in the back of Vanderkoy right there. I understand these guys are pushing, but that caution would have worked out if you're the 11, right? And you're not involved in it. But it's a bit of a joke. I definitely don't think that was intentional. I think Vanderkoy was just checking up there, and the 11 just couldn't react quite fast enough. But the 11's just kind of been in situations and put himself in situations as well, like we saw in the one and only caution of the race. On lap 38, I believe. He's been aggressive and assertive. I think in the past he's been frustrated that he hasn't been aggressive enough. Well, he's certainly, the pendulum has swung, the proverbial pendulum, the other direction, and he certainly hasn't lacked aggression tonight, but maybe find a good middle ground between more aggression and less aggression would benefit him well. But looking at Robert Dudley in that second pack now, as these guys try, but Peter, they're now 10 seconds even behind our race leader. They're just hoping for a caution at this point.
Yeah, you can see that gap down there on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen between Robert Dudley and Jason Freeman. You can see how much it's ballooning there, Drew. They look like they stopped the bleeding a couple laps ago, and then all of a sudden it's just continuing to unravel. That front group of trucks, you of course got the 3 teammates all working together, the S2R machines of Edwards, Lorello, and Izenga. They want to finish 1, 2, 3 here, folks. There's nothing better than finishing 1, 2, 3 at Daytona with your teammates. We'll see it's now up to over 10 seconds between the 5th place car and the 6th place car. So just not going well right now for the number 48 machine of Dudley. He's definitely going to need a caution flag or hope that his pit stop here is unbelievably stellar, or maybe the front pack of cars gets broken up on pit road. But the nice thing about, when you're with your teammates, Drew, you can kind of say, hey, I didn't get a great pit stop. Can you come back to me? Can you pick me up? Let's try and stay together. Let's work this out. That's the power of having teammates in this thing. Now, we do have a couple of teammates there running together on the inside groove in this pack. That is the 971 Nathan Maurer, Doug Neal in the 77 machine, and back behind them is Travis White in the number 23 machine. There are all those 3 Simbox trucks running nose to tail out there. Of course, Doug Neal is Mr. Simbox himself. Make sure you check them out. That's facebook.com/SimboxPC because they're also a sponsor this year in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. So they were last year's series sponsor. This year they're kind of jumping back to just a series sponsor role. They were kind of the title sponsor, if you will, last season. But I know Doug Neal puts out a quality button box product, and I'm sure he's going to be showing off those button box products all season long here in that Chartreuse number 77 machine as we tick off yet another lap here, closing in on lap number 100 at Daytona.
And speaking of teammates and such, we do have a second set of teammates in the top 5 here, Peter. The number 1 and the 20 are both, and I this is the full name, folks, I promise, the MDR Esports with Force India, co-owned by both Jason Freeman and Jason Gracias. So not only are they teammates, but they're co-owners running P4 and P5. So they'll be working together late in this thing. And when I think of Freeman and Gracias, I think of 2 guys who have exceptional pace and who just kind of know how to put themselves in position to win races. They don't close the deal every time, but they sure put themselves in a position to compete for that win late in these races. And I certainly expect that out of that number 1 and that number 20 truck later, as I think they're going to get up there and challenge those S2R trucks. But what's going to be interesting, Peter, is these lap trucks, because if those S2R trucks stay on the bottom, or if they go high and give again, I'm going to read this out, the MDR Esports with Force India trucks, the inside, what do those lap trucks do? Because they can really assist the number 1 and the number 20 truck if they're in kind of a worse situation. If Drew Himmelman behind them, who is, by the way, his sponsor, Sim Shots, is also the sponsor of the number 1 truck. So he's got a little bit of a vested interest in helping that number 1 get up there. Those lap cars could certainly get up there and influence this by giving more help to the 2 MDR teammates.
Yeah, and you say that. We've seen the S2R machines pitting every 20 laps. Might we see the 1 and the 20 say, you know what? We ain't going to win the race if we join them. Let's not join them on pit road. Stay out an extra lap. Stay with this big pack, and maybe they can use that to their advantage. Maybe go 1 or 2 laps longer. We've seen them, you saw in that graphic that was just up, they went 22 laps together earlier in the race. Now, of course, they're up near the front. They're burning a little bit more fuel than they might have been earlier in the race. But, if you can't beat them, don't join them. It's not going to be the same saying that you typically have here at Daytona. So we'll see whether or not those S2R machines come down pit road. If they come down pit road this lap, would be right on cue, Drew.
Yeah, we're at 100 even. But the only thing that worries me about that strategy, Peter, is that this group of 5 trucks caught the group that's pushing them right now, right? Caught these lap trucks. And so if I'm that number 20 and the number 1 truck and I come down pit road and I stay with those slower trucks behind me, is that going to be faster, right? Because basically what determines whether you beat somebody on and off is the delta time of you coming down pit road and then you getting back up to speed. And then while you're essentially running that lap, after those other guys pit, that lap is going to be quicker than once those trucks get up to speed. And that's a big gamble. I think the worst that happens for the 1 and the 20 is they still finish 4th and 5th. But I think if they still pit with the S2R trucks, which who knows, by the way, if they call it out as they stayed out an extra lap, it's going to be interesting. I think there's pros and cons to both. And ultimately that's a call that you have to make as Rob or Dudley and the rest of that second pack continuing to lose ground here, folks. It went from 8 seconds to 10 seconds to now almost 13 seconds is Robert Dudley and Nathan Maurer, followed by Doug Neal behind that lead pack. And you know, these guys are praying for a caution because they're not slower. I know they're losing time, but these guys are flat out, just like the guys in front of them. They just are in a little bit less organized of a pack that maybe has more damaged trucks or just isn't quite working together as well as our race leaders pack. And Bill Edwards, James Zarella, Ben Izinga, Jason Gracias, and Jason Freeman, Peter. But it's lap 102, and these guys haven't pitted. How much longer do you think they can go?
Well, I think they heard me. I think they heard me say, you know what? If they come down on lap number 100, then the other cars behind him are just going to try and stay out, go an extra lap. And I think they are trying to cover that now as they go past the pit lane once again. I expected them to peel off, but they are saying, you know what? Let's play a defensive strategy here. Let's go as long as we can because we know that the 1 and the 20, they can't go further than that distance. That's kind of, you know, knocking on the door of running out of fuel. So they're trying to cover the trucks behind them and just work together. They are 3 teammates. They can all be on communication with one another, work things out, figure out the strategy. I'm sure the 50 of Bill Edwards, who's led a significant number of laps here tonight, really impressed with that number 50 machine. Of course, we've said that before about Bill Edwards, and things here at Daytona have not gone to plan for him. But, you know, he's probably going to be the one truck out of this lead group who will run out of fuel first. Are they coming down pit road? Yes, they are. In fact, they're all coming down pit road, led by the number 50 of, the 5 of Ben Adams again going around. Is that going to bring out a caution flag? It's off the racing surface, and he gets things pointed back in the right direction, so no caution flag. Wow. I thought that was going to be a caution flag. Again, Adams having trouble getting to pit road. It has not been his night.
Yeah, did the 1 get in his pit box cleanly? That is as close as you can come for Freeman. But that 5 was an interesting incident. He basically spun to the inside wall, smacked it, and just instantly righted it and kept going. And I think that's why there wasn't a caution, is he didn't hit anything. But the number 1 and the 20 nailed their pit stops, and they came out ahead of all of the S2R trucks. They must have just calculated their fuel a little bit differently, been a little less conservative with their fuel numbers, because here those guys go with Drew Himmelman and that number 8 truck behind them. Are these guys going to be able to work together and try to break away from the S2R guys? As here comes the vast majority of the second pack. Oh, that's so close between the 11 and the 23 truck, but they all get onto pit road safely. But man, we have an interesting development up front as to can these guys push each other enough to break away from S2R.
So here is the interesting call that was made on pit road. I don't know if you saw it or not, Drew, but Jason Gracias and Jason Freeman, those 2 drivers actually did not take tires. The S2R train, however, I think they all took 2 tires on those trucks. So you see a little bit of a 3-car group up at the front with Gracias leading Freeman and Andrew Himmelman. Remember, Himmelman is scored 1 lap down at this moment in time. But then you have a couple of trucks back behind him, and I think, Drew, I just think they're close enough that they will be in the draft. We'll keep our eyes on that. Mitchell Adams in the number 49 machine, he was able to go 1 extra lap in his machine. Let's go on board. Yeah, here comes the number 50 of Bill Edwards. We're right on board with him right here. He's caught the number 8 of Andrew Himmelman, and we're going to have a battle for the race lead. But whoa, Jason Freeman throws a block on the number 50 machine. He says, you know what, S2R, if you can't beat them this time, join them.
Interesting move, Peter, to leave your teammate down there. But I think if you're the 20, is he going to try to contact between the 20 and the 50. Oh, Lorello hard into the outside wall, Freeman into the outside wall. Oh, caution, second caution on lap 106, and this is what that second pack needed. Not what the first pack needed, as Freeman trying to get that thing going. We'll get that replay queued up for you folks. And right here, the 20's just trying to squeeze into a hole. And right there, that little bit of contact got that 20's a little sideways. And it was just, this was going to be the result from there. And unfortunately, once again, the guys who paid the biggest price are the guys that had nothing to do with what was going on. And James Lorello is that guy in this situation. huge hit to the outside wall. That 9 is going to have a ton of damage to fix on pit road. But I think that's what the 20 thought he needed to do. He had to try to squeeze into that truck length hole right there, and then boom, that bit of contact. That sent that 20 sideways. It yawed that rear out, and so he was always going to come down the track just like that. And then there you go, the 50, and he made contact, and James Zarello involved as well. And there you go. Lap 107. Well, that happened on lap 106. Now lap 107. Our only second caution here, Peter. What a night of racing that we've had, but that's just kind of late race Daytona. I think if that 20 hadn't have tried to take that hole, he would have been in a very difficult position with S2R basically splitting those MDR teammates. And it's just one of those deals where you got to try for it, and ultimately just didn't work out.
Yeah, and there definitely wasn't any car width hole there for the 20 machine of Jason Freeman to come down in front of Bill Edwards, and there was definitely contact. And unfortunately for a couple of the S2R trucks, including the number 9 machine of James Zarello, there he is, the number 50 back there as well, going to be joining him on pit road. What a tough way to end your night. We saw those S2R trucks be so quick, and here they are on pit road. They're going to come fix their damage. And for the number 20 of Freeman, I'm sure he's going to be coming down pit road. There he is in the Mason-Dixon Cornhole Chevrolet, getting that thing woed up into the pit box. And it was just a little bit short on the pit box. But now, Drew, this is going to change everything. The field is back together. Everyone is going to have a shot. And I mean everyone's going to have a shot here at taking home the win at Daytona. Gracias leads, Ben Izenga in second. Your reigning series champion, 2-time series champion Mitchell Adams there in third. Travis White, Christopher Darling, the number 11's back in the picture. Look at David Harvey, the 00. We've barely mentioned his name here tonight. He's running up there in sixth. Doug Neal, Colin Oldery, Nathan Maurer, and Jamar Dumas rounding out your top 10. But Drew, this really changes everything. And looking at the scoring pylon over there, we only have 13 trucks out there on the racetrack right now on the lead lap. There's a couple of others on pit road. You see Bill Edwards back there. But one driver who just got himself back on the lead lap by means of the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, well, that's him right there, Andrew Himmelman, back on the lead lap. And Drew, like we said, he was racing hard up there in that front group to try and get that Lucky Dog Award. Well, courtesy of Brookstone Animal Hospital, he's got it.
He certainly does, and that's what he needed to do. He did a great job getting on and off pit road, mirrored the strategies of the number 1 and the number 20 trucks, and it worked out for him. But just going to go back to the incident, I don't even know if the 20 was necessarily fully trying to take that position. I think like kind of what I read in that, and I might be completely wrong, maybe he was trying to fit in that spot, is sometimes you kind of feint going down there, trying to get that 50 to check up. I think, quite frankly, knowing Bill Edwards in the amount that I do, I think it's the wrong guy to try to do that to. I don't think Bill's going to let off in that situation. But I think that's what the 20 was trying to do, was trying to get him just to breathe the throttle just a split second so you can get down there. And then I think he just didn't anticipate making that contact, as now, unfortunately, that 20 truck going a lap down did not beat our leader and pace truck off of pit road. And that is pretty killer for that number 20 as far as his chances are concerned, because it's going to be hard to be the guy to get that lucky dog when you didn't beat the pace car off, and just so much chaos can unfold. But Peter, this is basically this is almost a reset for these guys, right? Mitchell Adams is in third. That guy had a torn up truck for the vast majority of this race. His truck's still torn up, but he's in third position. This is what Mitchell Adams does, folks. He just figures out a way, even if he hasn't been super competitive all night, to get up there and just put himself in a great position. And that's what he's done here tonight. Not really in his own control, does he find himself in third position, but he did what he needed to do as far as keeping that truck together enough and doing a great job on and off pit road, staying with that second pack. And here he goes, restarting in third position. Jason Gracias, our leader, Ben Izenga, in that 07 truck to his outside in second. And we are restarting with 11 laps to go here, Peter. This is a totally different race than 5 laps ago.
Yeah, that is for sure. Green flag in the flagman's hand, and we're back racing. Look at a couple of the Sim Shots machines together out there on the racetrack here tonight as they blast their way off into turn number 1, trying to get those trucks spooled up to speed. Let's see if we can go on board with one driver we barely talked about here tonight. David Harvey getting up to speed in his truck, already about 170 miles an hour. Drew, this time, next time by, they'll be near on 180, but just about this point, halfway down the backstretch, these trucks, they spool up pretty quickly up to race speed. You see Harvey still trying to gain a little bit just there, impinging on 180 miles an hour as they blast off into turn number 3 here at Daytona. But that 00 machine, all of a sudden, a contender here tonight in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast 300.
Yeah, these trucks don't run a very big restrictor plate, a much lesser output power plant than what you see the Cup cars able to achieve and what the Xfinity cars are able to achieve, V cars and iRacing speak. So they don't really have a ton of restrictor plate, and because of that, they have a much better throttle response and much easier time accelerating to their full speed. In the Cup cars, it normally, at a plate track, can take 2 laps, basically, in some situations to get up to speed, versus these trucks, about a half a lap and you're darn near up to speed, as these guys were already touching 180 miles an hour going into turn 3 after that restart. But now we're up to the mid-180s and truly up to speed as the number 1 of Jason Rossi is leading Mitchell Adams, 2 MaxGrafix trucks behind him. Is Chris Darling done a great job here, Peter, in getting his way back up to the 3rd truck on that inside lane.
And almost contact there going across the start-finish line. Ben Izenga with a nudge from the number 23 of Travis White. Remember, White started this night on the outside pole in the number 23 machine. He's trying to get the 07 of Izenga to the front. The sole remaining S2R machine up at the front of the field, but that outside line breaking up just a little bit. Their teammates, the number 50 of Bill Edwards, though, still, car around! The 40 machine goes sideways on the back straightaway, and that's not going to bring out a caution flag. That's Nick Bradley being scored in the 20th position, 1 lap down, getting that thing back going. That will not bring a caution flag unless he comes back out in the racing surface there, Drew. Very slow, and has another car coming up back behind him. But we stay green here. Look at David Harvey in the 00 machine. He's down below the yellow line. He's going to have to get back up on the racing surface. He does indeed. But look at Christopher Darling in the 11 machine. He jumped up in front of Ben Izenga, and we're side by side for the race lead.
Great job by Darling to slot in front of Ben Izenga. I really thought that 07 was in a great position to lead that high lane, but don't count out Jason Freeman with the 49 behind him. I wonder, though, how compromised Mitchell Adams' truck is as far as pushing, for the race lead. There is quite a bit of damage on that 49, both on the rear end and a little bit on the front as well. But the 11 is damage as well. Sometimes you just don't know here, folks. A truck that looks perfectly clean might have had some substantial damage as far as the power output and the powertrain is concerned. And it really seems like Mitchell's not really able to push that number 1 truck like he needs. Is that outside lane really doing a great job of pulling past that inside lane? Is now interesting move by Chris Darling. He ducks slow. What will that number 1 truck of Jason Gracias do? Nothing. I think the 11 was maybe trying to play both lanes. It's not going to work out. I would have tried to stay on that high lane, though, Peter, because I just don't think that bottom lane quite has enough. We will see as we are closing in, folks, on the last few laps. We'll be 6 to go this time by.
And look who has creeped himself back up into the 7th position, was just on pit road a few laps ago. That is the number 50 machine of Bill Edwards. He's sneaking his way back up towards the top 5. Darling jumps up to the high side. Contact! The number 9 machine of Lorello gets... Man, they were trying to go 4 wide there through the tri-oval, Drew, and Lorello, unfortunately, just got hit. Somehow the field able to keep it all together, but no one giving an inch here as we close in on 5 laps to go this time by.
Colin Hillary just decided, I don't care, I'm not lifting. I don't care. And he didn't. And they went 4 wide through the tri-oval, which is unexpected here at Daytona. Maybe Talladega, you could do it in that tri-oval. You could probably go 5 wide through the tri-oval in Talladega. But it feels like the tri-oval is about as narrow part of the track as you get at Daytona. And they went 4 wide there. Folks, there's only about 5 truck widths as far as how wide this track is. So, I mean, that's only a couple inches between trucks, and they made it all work. A little bit of contact, but nobody crashed. And that is pretty remarkable as they kept it all together. But up front, we basically have the same 2 guys that we've had. Ooh, the number 00, a little bit of blinking there. Nothing major, but it's going to be interesting to see with just under 5 laps to go here. Oh, the 00 goes under the double yellow line. He lets off, gets back up there, and that's what he needed to do because the yellow line, that double yellow line, if you get your left sides below that and you advance your track position, that is out of bounds and you're going to be in a heap of trouble. As we saw last season, we saw at the last super speedway race, that outcome changed based on that. Is they're 4 wide again for a split second. The 50 gets together with Jason White. What happens to that? Big wreck. That is going to be a caution. And huge impact. It just keeps on going, folks. That is some. I'm glad this is sim racing and not real racing, because those were some substantial impacts that those drivers just had. And man, we'll see exactly how that developed. And just lead us through this one, Pete.
Yeah, man, this is one we're gonna have to go back and really slow this one down, because it happened, I think, with the number 50 machine, who was trying to go 3 wide here up through the middle. Let's go. Here we go. He's 3 wide up through the middle, and then there's and then they're trying to go 4 wide again. 971 and Maurer on the high line there, and there's just not a lot of room. The 23 not giving the 50 a lot of room, and there's just contact. That's just super speedway racing. 62 of Ullery getting involved. The 971, you see him going spinning around, and I want to say that we saw blast off. I don't know what just happened to the 28 truck, folks, but the Pittsburgh Penguins must be on fire or something, because unfortunately for Dumas, I know NASA's in Florida, but watch what happened to the 28 truck. He gets into it with a 62 machine of Ullery, comes down, Robert Dudley says ignition, and boom, to the moon went the 28 machine. Drew, iRacing. That's just iRacing right there.
Yeah, it was like that number 28 truck was a post on Wall Street Bets on Reddit, and he went to the moon, so to speak. That is some interesting contact between trucks, but again, just kind of hard racing at Daytona. I think those guys were just in close proximity, and that stuff happened. There goes the 28 launch, just gone. We have another private enterprise to go to space, and it is Jamar Dumas Incorporated, competing against SpaceX and Blue Horizon. So, he did a heck of a job. That is a successful first launch for that number 28 truck. Here he goes just down the track. I was expecting contact with the inside wall, not with another truck. And then, that's what, a half a second to where he gets reset. So, folks, basically what happened to that 28 truck is once iRacing decided his trajectory and momentum was launching him to outer space, if you get so far above the track, it just resets your car. Otherwise, that 28 looks like he would have literally reached the moon. But just another late race deal. But here we go, Peter. Our first green-white checkered, if I'm not mistaken, we'll have 2 shots at this. But if we get to the white flag, doesn't matter how many trucks wreck, there will not be another caution. So we'll see, but I really like the positioning of this number 1 truck, because the 49 on the outside just doesn't seem to be quite up to pace thus far. So I think that 1 is in a really good position.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we got people in the chat saying make sure to go on board with that number 28 machine. Sure enough, we did. I'm sure Jamar Dumas will be really disappointed with getting launched to the moon. That's not what he had on his agenda today at Daytona. Stay Tuned Sports saying Robert Hagg just smashed Crosby. William Kerwin saying, I thought Colin Ullery was funny last night, but this was better. Boy, oh boy. JT Poole, they're supposed to take off across the street at the airport. William Kerwin, he was sent to next week. I don't know. Jamar Dumas, one of the toughest breaks here tonight. The pace truck lights, I think, briefly turned off there, Drew, but they have indeed turned back on, so we'll get another pace lap here before we go back to green flag racing. We'll make sure that I am indeed live. Sure enough, I am. Dana Himmelman saying Drew Himmelman's up into the top 10. Sure enough, he was the recipient of the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award just a little while ago. I believe under this caution, Drew, your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner was the number 9 machine of James Dorello. Remember, he was involved in that 4-wide scuffle across the start-finish line, getting lapped. Well, he's back on the lead lap courtesy of the Brookstone Animal Hospital. So we'll see what Lorello can salvage here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast 300. And we know, Drew, he's going to be one of those drivers to watch all season long. So, you know, as long as he gets out of Daytona with a decent finish, I'm sure he will be happy. But what could have been for a driver of the number 9 machine here tonight. But up at the front of the field, Jason Gracias, the number 1. Mitchell Adams, your reigning series champion, up there. Christopher Darling, David Harvey, Ben Izenga, Doug Neal, Bill Edwards, Jordan Shepler, Colin Ullery, and Andrew Himmelman, your top 10. We're going to have the first attempt at a green-white checker right here coming up.
Yeah, and I think that if you're, I mean, you're never happy, you know, losing a shot at a win. But I think if you're a guy like, I mean, Jason Gracias, Mitchell Adams, I mean, Chris Darling's super quick. Dave Harvey's displayed quite a bit of pace. Ben Izenga has as well. The S2R guys in the 20 as well. Yeah, you don't want to lose a race, but I think that the guys that typically don't compete for wins at traditional tracks, they place a lot of pressure on themselves to do well at these restrictor plate tracks. And so I think those guys are the ones that are a little bit more put a little bit more pressure on themselves to do well here. So here we go, though, folks. Jason Gracias, a great restart on that inside lane. Maybe too good, potentially. The 49, I think, is just going to struggle to get up to pace here on that high lane, and it's going to be a struggle for Ben Izenga. Or that's not Ben Izenga. My apologies, the 00 of Dave Harvey to get down there. He couldn't quite. Doug Neal jumps down to the bottom lane, but here comes Mitchell Adams, making me eat my words, getting up to pace, even with that number 11 of Chris Darling. Two very similar trucks, but luckily just different enough to be able to tell them apart, as the number 11 just pushing that number 1 truck down the backstretch. He ducks up high. Nobody's going to work with him, though. 3 wide into turn 3 are those MaxGrafix co-sponsored trucks, but they both fall way, way, way back. And now that number 1 of Jason Gracias, he is all alone up there, but Ben Izenga to his outside, maybe a little bit of contact there. Here comes Doug Neal. White flag, Peter. The next flag will be the checkers. Who wins this thing?
This is going to be a tough one to call. The 07 of Izenga, he's got his teammate, the number 50. There's contact, though, the 77, and they're big wrecking back behind. We stay with the battle for the win here at Daytona. We got cars flipping and flying in turn number 1 and 2, and unfortunately it's the S2R teammates of Edwards and Izenga. But look at this up at the front. Gracias and Doug Neal coming down. Look at Jordan Shepler sneaking up into the picture. He's going to jump to the high side. I expected Doug Neal to jump up with him. Contact, 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 and we're coming to the checkered flag, Drew.
Mitchell Adams had a great run on that high lane. What will he do? Oh, there's more contact as Jason Gracias does a heck of a block, and that will give the race win. Mitchell Adams in second, but the question is, who finishes third? I think it was Doug Neal. It was. What a final lap there, Peter. Jason Gracias made that truck the entire width of the racetrack, blocking everybody, but a great job doing what he needed to do to grab that checkered flag.
And somehow Andrew Himmelman able to squeak home in 4th. My, oh my. Let's see if we can go back and figure out what happened to the two S2R teammates 1 lap ago in turn number 1 and 2. We'll slow this one down. Doug Neal shoots up into the 07 of Ben Izenga. There's that hip check, and Drew Himmelman looks like he's involved in that one. Oh, Chris Darling getting involved as well. Smoke billowing out the back of that number 50 machine. There he is. Now let's fast forward just a little bit for the run to the checkered flag, because that was one heck of a run to the checkered flag. Look at Doug Neal. He tried to get out there with the number 13 of Jordan Shepard, left it just a little bit late there, Drew. And look at, Mitchell Adams. I think there was some net code there. David Harvey, we've seen some connection issues out of him. I think that net code caused that last incident coming to the stripe. But wow, Mitchell Adams coming home in second. What a crazy finish here tonight at Daytona.
These guys, the entirety of last season, put on great races at tracks that neither you or I expected great races to happen at. And at a place known for excitement, Daytona International Speedway, the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series puts on another heck of a show. Jason Gracias, so quick all night, had that early incident, Peter, right? That I kind of thought he might be done in non-competitive, and he stuck with it and worked with his teammate, got themselves in great position. The 20 obviously had his incident late in the race, but Gracias just did what he needed to do, was threw some, quite frankly, ruthless blocks out there, but that's what you need to do at Daytona to win. Right? I mean, nice guys rarely win plate tracks, and Jason Gracias was certainly not going to let himself lose this race, and he brings it home in first. But Mitchell Adams, holy cow, that guy stuck with it, damaged truck early on, and like he did all last year, he just finds a way, even at places that he wasn't running well at, he finds a way to finish up near the front. And Doug Neal, what a job bringing home third position. I thought he was in a great position at the end, and then a little bit of contact out of turn 4, but Doug Neal still a great run finishing P3.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we dial up our third place finisher here tonight? Jump straight into those post-race interviews. Doug Neal, Peter Short, 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I'll tell you what, I'm doing pretty good. I know you're doing pretty good in that number 77 machine. All chaos broke loose there coming to the checkered flag, but somehow you're able to limp that Simbox number 77 machine across the line. Tell us about those final laps.
I don't even know what happened there at the end, man. It just, I don't know. It just, we got all together, got a good run going, and I try not to stay off of Gracias and not turn him, and I think somebody came up and maybe got into me, but I mean, it was a good finish. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, definitely was a fantastic race there at the end. I mean, talk us through how nerve-wracking those final laps were, especially with some late race cautions there in the mix.
It got pretty hairy there for a minute. We fell back like 8-10 seconds at one point, me and Nate and Travis, my other teammate. We fell back pretty far, so we pit, and as soon as we pit, that caution came out, so that was that helped us out. And then I don't know. I always hate green, white, checker flags at these super speedways because you guarantee just about there's going to be a wreck before it's over with. So it was pretty dicey there, that last turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, it was definitely dicey out there. We saw the number 13 there of Jordan Shepard getting a run on you down the backstretch. Do you think you could have jumped out a little bit earlier, maybe get a little bit of a more solid nudge from the number 13 machine? Or do you just think that because he was getting that run there in turn number 3 and 4, any type of nudge could have led to even bigger disaster?
Well, no, when I seen him move up, I was like, do I go now or do I wait? And then it looked like he was coming back down, and then he went back up again, and that's when I decided to go, and it was a little bit too late. If I'd have went up a little bit earlier, like you said, I probably would have had a better push towards the finish, but it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with place P3, so.
Yeah, definitely a strong way to start off the season here in the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series. It's a long season. Any particular races on the schedule that you're looking forward to this year?
Well, every short track. I love the short tracks. That's my favorite. Of course, I like the super speedways, but my short tracks, I love those. And so Bristol will be a good one. I'm not sure if we're going to Martinsville or not, but I hope we are. That's another good one. And of course, I like Dover. That's not really a short track, but it kind of races like a short track sometimes. The pit road speed anyway is 35 miles an hour. It's terrible. But yeah, and Atlanta. I enjoy Atlanta. I'm pretty decent at Atlanta, but mile and a half, man, I struggle on mile and a half. I just don't know what it is. I can't keep the momentum up in these trucks.
Yeah, of course, we're all looking forward to going to Atlanta for the Simbox Button Box 250. A little bit of a tongue twister there, Doug, but that's going to be a fun one right there in the middle of the season. But next week, we got another mile and a half. Chicagoland, the Wine, Whiskey, and Review 240. What are your thoughts about Chicago?
Man, at Chicago, Kentucky, and Kansas. I'm horrible at all three. So if I can finish in the top 15, I'll be more than happy.
All right. Well, Doug, I know you got some shout outs here for us here tonight on 3 Wide TV, so let's hear them.
Absolutely. My teammates, Nate Maurer, Travis White, Chris, he's not my teammate, but Chris Darling, we had a good run together tonight for a little while. Ben Mashburn, we ran good for, I don't know, probably 15, 20 laps there. And, of course, my Simbox company, Button Boxes. If anybody's looking for a button box, just hit me up on Facebook or send me a message. I'll be glad to try to help you out. And just you guys in the booth, always a great job up there. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, Doug, congratulations on finishing on the podium here at Daytona. What a great way to start off your season, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
All right, well, that's going to do it here for tonight's third place interview. I believe that Drew Eisenman has caught up with tonight's second place finisher, driver of the number 49 machine and your reigning series champion.
Mitchell Adams, Drew Eisenman up here in the 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, Mitchell, you had some damage early. You kept at it, and you did what you did so well last season in just maximizing your result. Walk us through that second place finish.
I mean, we got wrecked, or we got some damage on lap 7 or 8. Took all the way to the stage to get it fixed, and it was good. It wasn't the best in clean air, so I was really worried on that last restart that I wasn't going to be able to make it happen. But I thought we were maybe going to get the run on the outside. We got put up top and 3 wide, and I was hoping there would be some wrecks to help me get back up through it, and there were, and just tried to place it. I thought maybe we could have had a run on the win, but I mean, Jason, that was a great block coming to the finish. I'd expect him to do nothing less than that. So, I mean, yeah, it was just didn't give up all race long and just kind of found ourselves in the right spots there late and managed to get a great finish out of it.
Yeah, we saw that almost wheel hop that you had when wheel-to-wheel contact made with that number 1. You had a heck of a season last season, and coming in to the 2021A season, what are your thoughts? Do you think you can repeat a 3-time consecutive championship? What are your thoughts just kind of going into this season?
I definitely think this 49's got a shot at a third championship. We came from way back in the pack here tonight to finish second place, and like I said, at the end of last season, I felt like I was as good as I'd been in a really long time, and I still feel like that. So I'm definitely looking forward to this season. I think you're going to see this 49 definitely in contention late in the season again.
You certainly don't win races when you don't think you can. Next week, we have Chicagoland. This recent revamp of these intermediate tracks has a lot of guys excited. What are your thoughts going into that race?
Ran great at Chicago. As the last race of last season, was really fast. Probably maybe should have had a better chance to win than I did. I screwed up there late, so I just got to make sure not to do that again, and then I think we got a great chance to find victory lane next week.
Well, I mean, you did better than I thought you could do in that last restart. As you mentioned, I thought you were a sitting duck, and you managed to maximize your result as you so often do. So I certainly think you'll be one to be in the hunt next week. Congratulations on your second place finish. Before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to MaxGrafix. They did a great paint scheme on the truck, really better than the one I was running. So thanks to Chris. Buttkicker GTR Simulator, where you can use code GTRSIM to get 10% off. My Sim Shots Racing teammates, of course, my family, Nana and Papa, my Aunt Kelly and Bryce, and of course my parents, and any other 49 fans out there. And just thank you to everybody who tuned in to watch. This is going to be a heck of a season.
All right, Mitchell, thank you for talking with us. And once again, congratulations on second place.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's going to do it with tonight's second place finisher and reigning series champion, the number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams. But it's time to go down to Victory Lane, where Jason Gracias, folks, has won the Stay Tuned Sports 300 right here on 3 Wide TV. Jason, do you have any nerves left?
No. I mean, I'm pumped. Me and Evan Williams are going to have a good night after this interview. It was a fun race for everyone who came out tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a fantastic closing few laps here on 3 Wide TV, and definitely one we didn't exactly know how it was going to all pan out. And, looking back on it, it all goes back to that final late race pit stop that you made. You elected not to take tires. You came out first. Some chaos ensued back behind you, but you were able to maintain that track position. How important was that final pit stop tonight?
Well, that final pit stop was everything. Me and Freeman were going back and forth on strategy there at the end, and we felt like the only way to make up time, because I had a damaged truck from the first incident, I think on lap 3, where James came up into me, it looks like. Maybe it was netcode, I'm not entirely sure. I didn't really analyze it. But anyway, I had some damage, so we figured out the best way for us to leapfrog it, because I couldn't be the lead car, was to try to make time up in pit road. So each time we went to the pit lane that night or this night, we were just more and more aggressive until we found that sweet spot. So it's a whole lot of pit practice and in the practice sessions, and running that Super Speedway League on Thursdays helped a ton trying to get the pit road. So that's where the money's made with this new drafting package, getting on and off the pit road in a timely manner, and it paid dividends tonight. I think each pit stop, if you looked at it, I had a net gain on positions on pit road. So it really paid dividends for this MDR number 1 truck.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic night for you and your team. But, next week we go to Chicagoland, 1.5-mile racetrack. What are your thoughts going to the Windy City?
Chicagoland's a cool track. Before the rework of the model, it's probably one of my favorite tracks in like the B car or the Orca car, just because the tires wore out a ton. We did a truck race there last season to end the season, so I left there with a bitter taste in my mouth. I wasn't aggressive enough, so hopefully this time by, I heard that the top lane is worked in, so I'm hoping that it'll turn different, and these MDR trucks, the 1, the 20, the 00, and the 99 can have a strong run and try to take another take home another win to make it 2 for 2 to start the season. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely a great start to your season here tonight. We saw you very, very fast last season a couple of times, and here tonight, starting things off on the right foot. Do you think you're going to be one of those contenders for the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series title?
Anytime, these Mason-Dixon racing trucks come out, we're always strong. So we're always a threat to contend. We'll see how the season shakes out. I have a couple of prior engagements or prior commitments that I have to do this season on a Friday. So I won't make every race, but I'll try to make as many as I can. So my goal, I guess, isn't necessarily to win a championship, but to get as many wins or top 3s or top 2s as we can, just to show them that that we're here to play. That
you are, Jason, and definitely going to be a fun one to watch all season long right here on 3 Wide TV in the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series. Any thoughts before we leave Daytona?
Yes. So this win is dedicated to G Money. Garrett, happy birthday, bud. You've done a lot for us in the TNR series. You've grown it exponentially with your money and your sponsor so that you bought on yourself. So this one's for you. I'd like to thank all of the NSRA sponsors that make this possible. Stay Tuned Sports Podcast for coming on this season as the primary sponsor to sponsor all of the races we're going to do this season. Brookstone Animal Hospital, Bed Angles, who has a really cool platform. He's really engaged in the forums with showing us some free plays. Shout out to MaxGrafix. Not only is he a tremendous guy, but he paints some seriously cool cars. I think me and Mitchell both were running a MaxGrafix car out there tonight, and I think we probably had the 2 sharpest cars on the track. That might be a little biased, but who's to say? Thanks to SimShots, for being on the hood and for taking those sick photos that he does after every race to make them memorable. He posts some on Facebook, so go check him out. Buttkicker came on as a sponsor too. I think Mitchell alluded to in his interview that they have a coupon code, so go check them out if you want to get something from Buttkicker. And then thanks to Jason Freeman's team, Mason Dixon Racing. I think he has a solid team this season between himself, me, Dave Harvey, and Philip Scott, who are always quick. I feel like all of us are slated to get at least one win this season, if not more. So I'm excited, and thanks to the TNR guys for spotting. Tristan, Doze, Garrett, really a good time tonight. So had a lot of fun, and thanks to 3i TV to broadcast this so I can watch it later. It's going to be a good one to rewatch.
Absolutely. Jason, you got all your shout outs in that you want to give?
I think so. Well, while I have it, if my wife's watching, hi babe. I'll see you when I come upstairs. I have a pull all-nighter tonight. I have to make sure some code we implemented today at work goes through. So I might be up all night playing on my Switch, but I'll see you in a little bit.
Well, Jason, congratulations on your win. Hopefully that makes the all-nighter just a little bit easier on you tonight.
I'm hoping so too. But thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next week at Chicagoland. Hopefully another MDR Trucks in Victory Lane.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for our post-race interviews here tonight. Jason Gracias taking home the win here. What a great race here tonight, Drew. Definitely seemed to have a little bit of everything that you could ask for here at a super speedway. And, all things considered, we had a lot of trucks side by side for a majority of the night, and I don't think you can ask for anything better.
I totally agree. I think we had a bit of everything. We had long green runs. We had massive incidents. We had cars flip to the moon. So if you enjoy big wrecks, we had those. If you enjoy long green runs, we had those. Tons of green flag pit stops. A ton of action, a ton of racing for the race lead, and about as exciting of a last lap as you could ever ask for. And it was a really entertaining race to call, and I hope the viewers back home just had a great time watching it as well.
Absolutely. Definitely a fun one here tonight. And like I mentioned, next week right here on 3Wide TV, 9 o'clock Eastern, next Friday night, that is April 23rd, we go to Chicagoland, the Windy City, for the Wine, Whiskey, and Review. That's tough to say. The Windy City Wine, Whiskey, and Review 240 right here on 3Wide TV. Definitely going to be a fun one. Want to thank a lot of the series sponsors this year making the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast series possible. Of course, firstly, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast. There's a link in the description to their tune-in link so you can hit up their podcast. Buttkicker, thebuttkicker.com. Make sure you check them out. They're going to be sponsoring the Buttkicker Challenge this season. We didn't see any driver elect to take up the Buttkicker Challenge here tonight. Maybe we'll see that next week at Chicagoland. Craig's Setup Shop as well. MaxGrafix, MaxGrafix.co, Brookstone Animal Hospital, Taz Racing Customs, Sim Shots as well, the series sponsors. But Drew, we almost forgot. We have to do the thing we do at the end of every race, and that's go through tonight's final race results, because it was definitely a fun one here at Daytona International Speedway. Jason Gracias taking home the win. Mitchell Adams in second. Doug Neal in third. Andrew Himmelman, Mr. Where Did He Come From? Comes home in fourth with that late race Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner. Gets back on the lead lap. Gets all the way up to fourth there in that last minute dash to the checkered flag. Travis White coming home in fifth. Colin Ullery sixth. Jordan Shepler in seventh. David Harvey, Ben Izenga, and Christopher Darling rounding out your top 10 there, Drew.
And the S2R teammates of James Zarello and Bill Edwards finished 11th and 12th. Such great runs all night, unfortunately undone in the later stages of that race. Nicholas Bradley in that number 40 also had a bit of an issue late that didn't cause a caution, unfortunately for him, finishing 13th. Brian Bradley in 14th, Stan Hausman 15th, Ben Adams 16th, Justin White 17th, Evan Gilbert in that 19 truck in 18th, Peter Serto 19th, and now we start to get into the guys that had all sorts of problems. The truck that touched the outer space, the number 28 of Jamar Dumas, rounds out your top 20.
Yeah, we're hearing that Jamar Dumas is in low Earth orbit around planet Earth. We'll find out whether or not he returns to Earth by next week at Chicagoland. So stay tuned for that one, folks. Nathan Maurer coming home in 21st. Matt Vanderkoy, 22nd. Barry Knapp, Philip Scott, 23rd, 24th. Didn't hear a lot from the number 99 machine here tonight. Robert Dudley, Jason Freeman, 25th and 26th. Steven Dosiak, TJ Buck, 27th and 28th. Monty Glover, who had early connection issues and unfortunately really could never gain that back, finishing 29th. And Ben Mashburn running out the top 30 there, Drew.
Yeah, and now we're truly in the guys that had some significant issues throughout the race. The 041, in reality, just the 41 truck of Tristan Maurer. He finishes in 31st. My apologies, Tristan. Correct me if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. I always make sure that I can try to get those as accurate as possible. Garrett Gleason in that 7 truck finishes 32nd. Paul Bilson, 33rd. JT Poole in that number 26 truck will finish 34th. Doug Milner in 35th. And Kyle Lewis and Matt Cherry, our pole sitter, unfortunately round out our field in 36th and 37th. John Doble in that 800 truck was our eye in the sky, our race admin.
So that's just about going to do it for us here on 3Wide TV here tonight. Big shout out to our friends over at SimTV for the camera angles that we brought you here in tonight's Stay Tuned Sports 300 at Daytona. Make sure you check out their YouTube channel. Leave a like on your way out if you've stuck with us for all 300 plus miles here around Daytona International Speedway. We want to really thank you for your viewership here tonight, and make sure to tune in for next week's race. But until then, stay safe, have a good night, and we shall see ya!